I'm going to take roll, everyone. It is 9:03. Jeanette Butterworth.
Here.
Joel Ford. Bruce Friend.
Here.
I see you on here, Rita.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Lynn Kroger.
Here.
Hilda Parlay.
Present.
Alex Quigley.
Here.
Sherry Reeves.
Here.
Cheryl Turner. Heather Buncannon. And Stephen Walker.
Here.
Okay. Okay, we have 8 present, so we have a quorum. And I'll keep an eye out. Oh, yeah, I can do that for anyone that arrives later. But otherwise, we are good to go. Chair Quigley.
All right, board members, welcome to day 2 of our October Charter School Advisory Board meeting. Excited to have everyone here today. We are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the
Republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. This time I'm going to read our mission statement and ethics statement. The Charter Schools Advisory Board works to ensure the existence of high-quality charter schools in North Carolina. In our ethics statement, board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of the advisory board. Does any member of the advisory board know of any conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record.
Mr. Chair, I recuse from Gate City, Matthews, and Peak.
Let the record show Hilda Parlay's recusals for today's meeting. I will be recusing from Healthy Start Academy, and I believe Global Scholars is the other Durham school currently in the renewal cohort, of which I will recuse as well.
Mr. Chair, this is Mr. Friend. I'll recuse from any discussion on the renewal segment of our agenda today.
Great. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of a conflict or an apparent conflict, please bring it to our attention. It'll then be your duty from participating in discussion and voting.
Oh, Shonda. Shonda?
Yes. Is it too early to share the screen?
Yeah, just 1 second. We just need to approve the agenda.
Perfect.
All right, here's the agenda for today. Alex. Can you guys see the agenda?
Sorry, I was on mute. Today we will begin with our charter schools report, and then we will dive into our interviews, closing with Dave's update at 3:30. Any questions on the agenda today? We do have an hour lunch break today. Okay, so hearing none, I will take a motion for approval of the agenda.
Move, Stephen Walker.
Second, James.
All right, properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Vote.
Aye.
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 Did you guys have a second?
Aye.
Yeah, I believe it was Sherry.
Sherry.
Sherry, okay.
All right, the agenda's been approved and we're ready to begin our meeting.
All right, Shonda, you can take over if you'd like.
All righty. Gonna share my screen here. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes, Shonda.
Okay, great. So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Board, for time today on the agenda to share our 2021 charter school renewals. This is the first year that there are no major compliance issues to discuss surrounding these schools. So outside of the information that I present to you today, you will have to consider information next month, which is the audit and any findings that they may have. So we'll go ahead and get started. Of course, the reason that we have renewals, House Bill 334, Section 2, GS 115C-218, the State Board of Ed shall renew the charter upon request of the chartering entity for subsequent periods not to exceed 10 years unless one of the following applies. The charter school has not provided financially sound audits for the prior 3 years. The charter school's student academic outcomes for the past 3 years have not been comparable or comparable to the academic outcomes of the local school administrative unit in which the charter is located. And the third thing is the charter school is not, at the time of the request for renewal of the charter, substantially in compliance with state law, federal law, the school's own bylaws, or the provisions set forth in its charter granted by the State Board of Education. Here are guidelines that the board utilizes to decide or make a decision on the number of years that a charter shall receive. There are options of 10 years, 7 years, 5 years, 3 years, and of course a non-renew. Here's the list of schools. And we will now go through each of these schools. The schools are numbered, or the schools are in order by the number of years in which they were placed within the guideline. So for our 10-year placements, we will start with the Hawbridge School. Hawbridge is currently at a grade B. The school did not meet growth for the last 3 years. However, they are exceeding the LEA in performance by over 20 points each year that they've been open. If you look at their subgroup information, their African American students, as well as their Hispanic students and white students, are outperforming the LEA in each of those subgroup performance categories. Are there any questions before I move on to the next school? Okay. Global Scholars Academy. Global Scholars is currently a D performance grade. They did not meet growth last year, but they exceeded growth 3 years before that. They are comparable to their LEA each year for the past 3 years. Their African American subgroup, their Hispanic subgroup has also outperformed the LEA. I do remember last year we had a school that was at a D performance grade, and I believe SBE had some follow-up questions about that. So just keep that in mind as you are making your recommendations within the month of December. I'm sorry, are there any questions before I move on beyond Global Scholars Academy? Okay. Mallard Creek?
My question, could you go back to Hawbridge?
Sure.
I mean, I guess they meet the threshold. It's just concerning to me that we have a school that has 4 straight years of not meeting growth.
Yes, and we discussed that. Again, these placements, we do them right down the line. as far as legislation goes and the framework goes, but yes, not meeting growth was a discussion. So that may be something you want to follow up with them on.
Yeah, but statutorily, it's
It's solid, yeah.
they have to, they have to receive a 10-year, I guess.
Right. We also discussed diversity during their meeting. So, right.
So they're not very diverse, Shonda.
Right. They're at 85% Caucasian. And we talked about ways that they may be able to change that by offering some other programs and things that would draw in a diverse student population. So, to my understanding, they're going back to the drawing board about those things. But a follow-up is always good.
If you look at the growth index, the past 2 years, it's just outside of the band for meeting growth.
Right.
So it did improve.
I mean, it's still negative.
I know.
I mean, it's kind of like,
Alex, I knew you were going to ask about that.
it's just pretty glaring. I don't know. I just feel like, I guess, again, isn't the law specific on this?
If we go strictly by what's required to receive a 10-year, they have met the requirement. They're outperforming the
They're
LEA.
outperforming the LEA, correct?
Exactly. That's the thing. They are 20 plus points above the LEA at this point, as well as their subgroup, even though they may be small, their African American and their Hispanic subgroup are definitely outperforming the LEA as well.
And in
Let's
most,
not forget, Alex, they're also a solid B school. I mean, if they were a D school not meeting, I could understand the concern, but a solid B school with a borderline not met is not that concerning to me. I have a lot of questions about the growth formula, as all of us know.
Yeah.
I think considering they missed growth last year by 0.01.
They also, I don't know if you recall, but they were recently granted an expansion.
Yeah.
They will be adding on to their current location, and I think in terms of diversity, they've had trouble because it's a smaller school and because they have so many siblings that enroll.
Right.
They usually have very few spots open. So they're hoping that the enrollment expansion will give them better opportunity to target other populations outside of the normal siblings that get the majority of the spots there.
Right.
are they adding grades?
Yes, I believe they are.
They're adding the lower grades,
The
right?
lower grades, yep.
I think so.
So as you see, this school, again, is a B school. They are outperforming the LEA, and for that reason, they do qualify for a 10-year placement based on what's expected.
All right. Let's keep moving.
Okay. So we're at Mallard Creek. I did not discuss Mallard Creek, right? Okay. So Mallard Creek is at a performance grade C. Growth status was not met for the last 3 years. However, they are within comps of the LEA. Their African American students, their Latino or Hispanic students are outperforming the LEA. Their Caucasian students are underperforming by only about 5 points. And they do qualify for a 10-year based on the requirements. Any questions about Mallard Creek? Okay.
I have the same
I was gonna say, Alex-
same concerns with Creek.
We always say we would love to have some color on the page, Again, this year we're at a bit of a disadvantage because we did not have data for last year. However, we do have what is legislatively required.
Yeah.
Most recent data available. So there are no questions beyond the growth index.
This is Dave Machado. I just want to also bring your attention that this is Mallard Creek's first renewal. So this is a new school that is finishing their 5th year. Hopefully we'll see more improvement as they mature.
Thank you, Dave, for bringing that up. And just so the board knows, a large majority of these schools, and if you look at the spreadsheet with the demographical information, the majority of these schools are 5-year, they're on their first renewal. So for many of them, this is their first run, their first 5-year run, and well, really, it only shows 3 to 4 years. So thank you again, Dave, for bringing that up. Matthews Charter Academy is a C performance grade school. They have met growth for the last 3 years. They're comparable to their LEA, and their African American students as well as their Latino students are outperforming the LEA. Any questions about Matthews Charter Academy? Okay. Peak Charter Academy is currently a performance grade A school. They exceeded growth the previous year and met growth the year before that. This school is a first-time renewing school. They are 4 years old, 5 years old coming up. And their performance has been well above the LEA in which they reside. Their African American students as well as their Latino students and their Caucasian students are all outperforming the LEA. For this reason, the school does qualify for 10-year placement. And just another note on Peak Charter, when we talk about diversity and what it looks like for a school to be diverse, this was one of the schools that we went into and we were just like, wow, because not only are they diverse racially, but culturally, there's an extreme amount of diversity and they embraced that. There was a lot of that to be seen within the school. So that's Peak Charter. Does anyone have a question about Peak? Okay.
Shonda, what area of Wake are they in?
They're closer in the Apex area.
Okay.
Yep. And extremely diverse community is what we look for. Yeah. Any other questions, Sherry or anyone? Okay. Pine Springs Preparatory Academy. Pine Springs is currently a performance grade A. They look very much like Peak. They exceeded last year or the year before, and they met growth the year before that. The school is outperforming the LEA by almost 20 points. African American students, Latino, Hispanic students, and their Caucasian students, as well as 2 or more races, are all outperforming the LEA. Their students with disabilities are almost double of what the county's results are. So again, this school does qualify or fall within the 10-year guidelines here. Any questions about Pine Springs?
So, Shonda, I noticed on a couple of these charts, like on the economically disadvantaged, the little asterisk for ED and non-ED, does that just mean data wasn't available?
It means that they don't have enough students in that category to actually create a number. So their economically disadvantaged student population is extremely low because they do not have enough to populate a number.
So that's why the non-ED doesn't populate either?
Right.
Okay.
Any more questions? I'm sorry, before we move on. Okay. And again, this school is renewing for the first time. That's why you see the asterisks for 16, 17, and down. We're now in our 7-year placements. And while considering 7-year placements, remember that it does make a difference if the school exceeded growth for 2 years or if they met growth to determine. That's the biggest difference between the 7 and the 5. So we're looking at Healthy Start Academy. If you look at this growth index, it's They're definitely trending in the right direction. The school performance grade D, and they exceeded growth for the last 2 years and met growth the year before that. The LEA, they are now comparable at this point to the LEA. However, the 2 years before, they were not, which is why they did not fall into the 10-year category. If you look at their African American students and Latino students, they are outperforming the LEA. And it's down here. As far as their economically disadvantaged percentage, they're at 71%. And again, and we say this every year, but I want to make sure that it's on the record, we are not able to say that the economically disadvantaged number is completely accurate because of the way the information is collected. Most cases, schools say that their numbers are much higher than what's reported here. So we just say that this is a baseline number, but that the number could be higher. And that goes for all schools. Do you have any questions about how baseline?
Hola, honey. Hola, honey. Hola.
If everyone could mute, that would be great. So if there are no questions, I'm going to move forward.
Chandra, this is Bruce. I just have a question.
Sure.
Why would this school not be in a 10-year? Why do they not qualify? And like going back to the earlier discussion, we have schools that have never met growth.
Right.
Renewals. This one is 2 years have exceeded and always has at least met. So why is this not a 10-year?
So the difference between a 10-year and a 7-year, you want to be comparable to the LEA, and I'm going to put my little arrow over here. So as you see, there's a negative 2.6. That means they were only 2.6 points from being at a baseline of evening out with the LEA. So they're still comparable. But if you look at any of the grade areas, that means that they are not comparable to the LEA by a number of points. All of these would have needed to have been greened out or at least -5 or lower or higher for the school to qualify for the 10-year. The reason that they qualify for the 7-year and not the 5-year is because in 18-19 as well as 17-18, they exceeded growth, and that is a part of the framework that we use. But they also, the other thing to consider is that they are not listed under the low performing or continually low performing, which allows them to also fall into the 7-year category. So did I answer your question, Mr. Friend? I'm sorry.
No, yeah, that does. I just,
Yeah, this is Joe. Shonda, the one point I would disagree with that and agree with Bruce on they belong in the 10-year is if their demographic breakdown was closely reflective of the county breakdown, then the college career ready and grade level proficiency would have more meaning. But given that their percentage of Black and Hispanic is much higher than the county, I don't think that should be penalized. So I concur with Bruce that this school belongs in the 10-year renewal.
Okay. And so what I do, I take notes on your comments. And again, I bring everything to you, our team, we bring it to you straight down the legislative line, but that is why you have those guidelines so that when it's time to make your decision, you can, take in all this information, which is why we provide so much of it to you and make a decision on your recommendation. I know that you all will listen to the report today. In November, you'll hear about their all the schools' finances, and you'll also speak with schools that may need to come before you. And in December, you make a determination on what recommendation you're going to send over to State Board. So all the information that you're taking in, just I'll remind you of those things when it's time to make that recommendation to the State Board of Ed for December.
thank you.
Sean, on
Cool beans.
this point too, I think we've got another case where, not doing the testing and everything last year and having everything that kind of went haywire, I could have, this school probably would have exceeded growth for the 3rd year in a row.
I totally agree.
And in the 10-year, and I mean, just looking at the trends that they've got, everything is, shooting up like a rocket. So I just, that's just unfortunate. But I think, I think we have to remember these guidelines are guidelines. The only thing that we have to do is we have to follow the statute on the 10-year renewal. So if they're entitled to a 10-year, they are. That doesn't mean that we can't give people a 10-year that's not statutorily entitled to one.
Right.
We still recommend that, and I think that would be appropriate for the school.
I would echo that, and Joe, you took the words right out of my mouth in terms of the race ethnicity breakdown, and just their enrollment as well. I mean, they're doing this, they've met and exceeded growth with a much larger population of students and more diverse than some of the ones that are on the 10-year list.
Yes, and as you go through the remainder of the report, you're going to see that there are a lot of schools that would have been on the bubble if they had testing from last year. So I totally agree, and this was probably one of the harder years as far as compiling this report, because you're right. There are a lot of schools that were right on the edge of showing what they could really do. So I've written this down.
One thing that could be helpful, not to add more work to the report, but I think it'd be really helpful to show the college and career readiness by subgroup. I think that would be a lot more telling. So for Healthy Start, I believe if you compare their college and career ready for their minority groups to the county's minority groups, it would probably double, triple those rates. And I think that's significant.
Okay, duly noted.
Yeah, so Shonda, you see how we have at the bottom the 18-19 subgroup performance and the Black Hispanic.
I'm sorry, my mouse is very sensitive here. I'm rolling over. Say that one more time, I'm sorry.
So we have the 18-19 subgroup performance. You can see clearly where the Black and Hispanic populations are outperforming. If we had that for, just as backup for 17-18 and 16-17, I'm sure that it would be in line with the meeting. It would be less than 5.
Okay.
So that would just be evidence for it, because, like the gentleman said previously, when we're comparing these students to all the students in Durham County, it's not really equitable.
So let me ask a question to the board, or pose this question. I know that we've prepared schools to have additional data to share in the event that they are called before you to discuss why they are not in the 10-year category. Would you want to see or hear from them what their subgroup information was for the previous 2 years outside of 18-19, but for 17-18 and 16-17? Is that information that you would want to hear from the school?
I think it would benefit Healthy Start.
Okay.
Shonda?
Yes.
I will say, because having worked with accountability on the recent virtual report, there will be one additional year of subgroup data, I believe from the 17-18, but there will be no other state accountability subgroup data, because they just began compiling that with the new ESSA plan.
Right.
Just for everyone's,
So 2 years would be the max that we would be able to see.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to compile a list here of what needs to be put in communication for all the schools that need to come before the board. So, thank you, Ashley. Okay, are there any more questions before we move on? All right. Union Prep Academy at Indian Trail is currently a Performance B school, Performance Grade B school. They met growth last year and exceeded growth the year before that. They are comparable to the LEA for the 18-19 school year. However, they just barely missed it. And if we were rounding up, you could say they were comparable for the year 17-18 at a negative 5.2. But again, their subgroups are doing well. And we actually talked about the fact that their Caucasian subgroup is the underperforming group within their school. But their African American subgroup as well as their Hispanic subgroup are definitely outperforming the LEA. The Hispanic population is almost 20 points over the LEA. So this school, again, qualifies for a 7-year because of comps. They are a B school though, so that is something for you to consider as a board, as you know that these are guidelines. And are there any questions about the school?
This is Joe. For consistency's sake, I would say Union is in the same situation, a little different with Healthy Start, where I think they deserve a 10-year as well based on the data we're looking at here, particularly their subgroup performance for minorities.
Right. Okay.
All right. Justin, good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so I'm going to make note of that. 10-year. Any other questions or comments before we move on? If I'm going too fast, please let me know. So we are now in our 5-year placements. Fernleaf Community Charter School is a performance grade C. They did not meet growth last year, but they met growth the year before, and again, not met the year before that. They did not meet comps for the county for the last 3 years. Are definitely closing the gap. They've gone from a -17 to a -12 to a -8. So they're getting there. If you look at their subgroup data, they do not have enough population of African American students to even create a subgroup. They are largely a Caucasian school at 87%. And their Latino subgroup is performing pretty closely to what the county is performing. For this reason, the school falls within the 5-year placement within the guidelines. Are there any questions about Fernleaf Community Charter School?
So Shonda, because of not meeting growth, is that the 5-year? Okay.
Well, the big thing is they haven't been comparable to the county in any of the testing years, right? But because they are a C and they did meet growth one of those years, they fell into the 5-year versus the 3-year. But they're a performance grade C school, so who's closing the gap. So that's something for you all to consider as you think about what recommendations you want to make for each school.
And they were a young school, right?
They are.
Is this the one that's in the house by the brook or something?
I think that's another school. But let me go down this list here, make sure. Yes, so Fernleaf is on their first 5-year charter. This is their first renewal. And they're not an extremely small school, but they're kind of small. They're like 371 students. So it's not a large charter, but they seem to be making growth based on this sheet. They are moving in the right direction. I don't fully understand sometimes how this not met growth shows up when schools are moving up. I think Joe and I have talked about that a couple of times, but totally up to you all as far as your discussion about them in the coming months. Any other questions about Fernleaf?
I guess my question was just around these schools. Can we get their enrollments from because we're kind of missing the enrollment data from 1920 and 2021, and that's particularly important.
Right.
Particularly as we get into the schools that have lower
numbers,
recommending a lower number.
Yes. So on this sheet, you will see what they had the year before. Their enrollment, their current enrollment, and even their current demographical data for this particular school year is on that spreadsheet. We were not able to make another data page without new data to put in, so it had to be put in a separate location. But I do have the numbers as well as the demographics for any school that you ask for. It's on that sheet for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so just click on school demographics and operations, and all of that information is in there for you. If you have any questions, just let me know. Their fund balance is also in there, but FBS will be discussing that next month, to my understanding.
Shonda, I do think it would be helpful if you highlight if any of these schools had a decline in enrollment in the 1920 school year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this one's actually at 371. but the non-Hispanic is 95%, so,
At least it's continuing to grow, so that's a positive, I think.
That is, and just FYI, enrollment is discussed at every meeting. If there was a decline in enrollment, that was addressed and would have been placed up here. Of the schools that we have before us, there's not a decline in enrollment more than 3 or 4 students. So it's not a red flag decline for any of them, even with COVID-19. A lot of schools actually experienced an uptick in enrollment versus a decrease. So just FYI, as far as enrollment, there were no safety or no red flag issues that came up as far as enrollment for these schools.
That's great news.
So we'll move on to Concord Lake STEAM Academy. This school is a performance grade D. They did not meet growth last year, well, the year before, and they exceeded and met growth previous years. So if you look at it, their economically disadvantaged population is 55%. Their African American students are underperforming to the LEA by about 20 some odd points to the county. And their Hispanic or Latino students are performing on par with the county. If you look here at their grade level proficiency comps, they are behind. There was a major drop here. We did have discussion about that. There was a loss in administration, and there's just a big difference between the 17-18 and 18-19 school year, and we did have a discussion about where that drop came from. So the school currently is in a 5-year placement because of their comparability and performance, overall grade level performance. Are there any questions about Concord Lake?
This is Stephen. I just have some issue with, a 5-year on this one, just looking at it and seeing how the things seem to be going kind of the wrong direction last year, or 18-19, I guess I would say. And, looking at some of the subgroup performances, I've got some concerns about how long of a leash we should do. I mean, this may be better a 3-year.
I will say, Shauna, that I enjoyed the video that is that the new administrator?
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy the video. So I'm surprised when I see these results, because they really do have state-of-the-art school and lots of things that could make a big difference for these students.
So one thing that I can share with you, when there are glaring alarms, like this is alarming to me as well. And so we discussed this, and loss of an administrator at a school that works on relationships. And this is not, again, I give you the information straight down the line where it falls legislatively, and that's the role here. But a lot of times when you lose a leader that has built trust within the school, with the community, and with the stakeholders, and that leader goes, it does have an effect on students. It has an effect on the entire body of the school. So there was a lot of rebuilding that took place in that 18-19 school year, because they basically started over with a whole new leader. And when you're dealing with students, that relationships are a major part of how they work throughout the day, that can have a major effect. And just like I told the school, I'm always willing to share their situations and share their stories without them being excuses. But there was a major change in the school between 17-18 and 18-19. And they lost not only an administrator, but teachers as well. And so that can have an effect. Because I was wondering, just like you, what has happened here? They were looked like they were on an incline, and then they slid, like majorly. So the school shared that information with us during their use.
Shonda, it looks like this is Jeanette Butterworth. Looks like enrollment is at 338
Ooh,
for the school, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yes, that is correct.
And then the last we see here, 1819, was 503.
Right. Again, that was their loss. Again, that's how they explain that. They're not close to, so I know we have a number, a red flag number, and they're not close to that number. However, they're rebuilding.
but that's almost 200 students I lost. Yikes.
This might be a school we need to hear from. I don't know if this is the place and time to flag that.
Yes, any school that is not receiving 10 years, you usually ask to see them. So
Okay.
I'll mark that down. But yeah, so
Dr. Cooper, if I can inject right here, again, this is Dave. This school did tell us that they had planned to open under Plan B, and when their board made a last-minute decision to open under Plan C, they did lose some students, not 200 students, but they did lose some students when they had made that decision to go from B to C.
thank you, Dave. And this is lower than what we discussed. I would like to follow up with them about this as well. So are we saying, Ms. Butterworth, are you saying that this is a school of interest to come in or to virtually speak with the board?
If my fellow board members agree, I think there's some big red flags that I'm seeing for this school.
Okay. All right, we will go to the next school unless there are any additional questions. That number is much lower than, okay. Are you ready to go to the next school?
Go girl.
Okay. We have Gate City Charter. They are currently a Performance D school. They met status last year, exceeded the year before, and did not the year before that. They have been comparable 1 out of the 3 years, which is again why they're in the 5-year category. Their economically disadvantaged population is 67%. Their African American and Latino students are performing within part of the LEA. Their Caucasian students are underperforming by a great deal of points, as well as their 2 or more races. This is one of the few schools that has a substantial amount of American Indian students, enough to actually create a subgroup, and those students are outperforming the LEA. Their Asian students are underperforming, and their students with disabilities are just about, they're comparable, as well as their economically disadvantaged subgroup.
Sean, does this school have a CMO or EMO?
Let's see. Yes. Let's see. Gate City. They're on their first renewal, and their enrollment went up from 648 to 706. And I do believe they are under an EMO. I'm going to double check that real quick for you.
So, Ms. Cooper, did their enrollment go up because they added 8th grade, or did it grow K7?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
You said their enrollment increased. Is that because they increased by grade and so they went to K8, or did their total K7 enrollment increase?
They increased, they went up 1 more grade level. But let's see, I'm pulling up their stuff now. Trying to pull up their EMO information. I will make sure that I give that to you before I close out the report. I'll give them a ring. Do you have any other questions about Gate City?
No, just, I mean, They do have a high ED population. And it looks like they were making huge strides. Yeah, I'd just like to know what's going on there.
Yeah, the decline from -5 to -12 was concerning. We talked about that. But again, it will be great for them to be able to explain. Are you all going to want to see Gate City charter?
Yeah, I think we should see anyone who we're not going to recommend a 10.
Okay. Let's see here.
Dr. Cooper, isn't this a NHA school?
It is. It's Heritage Academy School. I'm trying to go back through their submission to see if there's anything I can provide by way of information as you all are asking. Let's see. Okay, so just some other follow-up information. They do have a school lunch program and they do not provide transportation. All right. So are there any other questions that you all want answered about Gate City that I can follow up with you about? Or is it just that? Okay. Are we ready to go to the next slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We have Union Day School. Union Day School is a performance grade C. They did not meet growth for the last 2 years, but they the year before that. They have been comparable 1 year out of the 3, and for some reason, they dropped to a -13.3 as far as performance proficiency, but they're pulling up at a -10.7 for the last year of data that we have. Their African American students are underperforming to the LEA by almost half. Their Latino students are performing right on target with the LEA, and their Caucasian students are below the LEA by about 20 points. They're 2 or more races, 95. They're above the LEA by about 20 some odd points as well. Economically disadvantaged students are underperforming to the LEA, and their students with disabilities are performing right on par. So if you look at their makeup, their school makeup, and this performance, this is why they fell into the 5-year category of the framework or the guidelines. Yes.
Their white subgroup, their black subgroup, and their Asian subgroup are significantly below the county.
Yes.
How many charter schools are in Union County?
Let's see. I can look that up for you. I do not know that.
Do you know?
Let me look at our county map.
Yeah, I believe there's 5.
I can look for you, Shonda.
Okay.
You have the.
There we go.
That's a lot for Union County, isn't it? Because I guess it spills over from Charlotte Mac.
They have Union Academy, they have Union Day, they have Monroe Charter. So there's 5. Looks like 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Wait a minute.
An apprentice.
6. Yes, there's 6. So for that county, yes, that is a high number of schools.
Could we maybe find out from them like their wait list information? Seeing that there is, such an abundance, if you will, of charters in that area.
This is Rita. Do we also know if there's been an enrollment change?
So it shows here 477, but on their, let's see, Union Day.
Chart shows 565, Shonda.
Yes, 565, so they've had an increase.
Dr. Cooper, did they also have a change in leadership recently?
I'm trying to get to their page. In the last year, not that I'm aware of.
Dr. Cooper, this is Dave again. I believe they've had a change in leadership each of the last 3 years.
Except this past year.
It was,
Dave.
who's the principal there now?
Matthew Hamilton?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it
Mr.
used to be
Hamilton.
Dr. Pam Long. Last year it was Dr. Pam Long, I believe. So I think they did have a
And
change.
you know what? Matthew actually just started in July of this year.
Yeah.
So he's the fourth principal that they've had since their charter began. That is correct. There's so many unions on this list. I'm trying to decipher all the information between schools. But yes, Mr. Hamilton just started in July of this year.
So that seems problematic if every year they have a new leader.
And he had to take over during COVID.
Right, he did.
So
Yes.
we need to find out the issue. Is the issue with the board and administration? What's going on?
Okay. And we discussed some of that, but it would be great if they can firsthand give you information on the record of what the issues may be. So I'm going to write that on the list of information schools need to be prepared with. Wait list information, change of administration, or
Any
reasoning for
kind of
decline.
staff turnover, I think, Shonda. You can have a lot of it.
All right. Okay. Gotcha. Anything else on Union Day School? I'm going to compile a list of these things and put it in an official letter or communication to the schools that need to come before you all virtually. So if there's anything you think of, please let me know, and I'll add it to this list. All right. We'll
Dr.
move on.
Cooper?
Yes.
Just one thing for the charters to consider when they're talking about enrollment, that we need to see increase, like maybe by grade, because some of these are increasing in enrollment because they're increasing, adding a grade. So I think we want to make sure we make that distinction, that just because there's an increase in enrollment doesn't necessarily mean their school is growing. It's just, you know, they're increasing that.
They're growing a grade, right? Okay. All right. We have Unity Classical. This is a very unique situation because the school, they only tested really 1 year because of the way that they onboarded for their, this is their first charter. And because of the way they opened the school and the grade levels in which they expanded, they only have really this 1 year of performance to show. They are grade C. They don't have a growth status because, again, there was no baseline. This is their base. They are comparable to the LEA at a 5.8 proficiency. And their African American students are comparable to the LEA. Their economically disadvantaged students are about 14 points below the LEA. So, you know, again, there's not a lot of data here, but what they have is data that shows they're not only a C school, but that they are comparable to the LEA. Any thoughts?
Yeah, Shonda, with this group, for 2021, they should have the BOG data and the fourth grade assessment, provided that they've been to school. So, I mean, it's possible.
Right.
I don't know. I'm hesitant to just give them a 5 year when it's not their fault that they only have 1 year of data.
Okay.
So, I mean, I guess if they could make the case, show us, you know, where their students are. And again, with their race ethnicity breakdown, 38% is black, but I guess none of the other subgroups are large enough to count.
To make a subgroup. Let me go to their their current demographical information on the chart,
Oh, yeah, let me look at that.
and that'll give us a little more insight on who they're currently serving. So they have 19% Asian, 52%. Okay, so this school is a school that you're gonna want to talk to. I know that Mr. Mamoni asked that schools have some additional supporting data of where their students are performing now in this current school year, and maybe how they finished out last school year. So would it be appropriate to ask them to prepare for that?
Yeah, I think so, because
Okay.
I would like to, personally, would like to be able to give them a higher charter instead of 5 years.
Okay. All right. So, unity. Okay. Additional information. I will put in that request. Okay. Any other questions? Again, this year was a little difficult because not having that information, that data, it's like, what could have been? We don't know. So I'll go to the next slide. We're now at our 3-year placements. Iredell Charter Academy is a performance grade D. They had growth 3 out of 3 years. They've not been comparable 3 out of 3 years. However, their African American subgroup and their Hispanic subgroups are performing on par with the LEA. Their Caucasian subgroup and their 2 or more races are underperforming to the LEA. Students with disabilities are very close to being comparable, or they are comparable to the LEA, and their economically disadvantaged students are falling a little bit, a hair below the LEA. For that reason, the school has been placed in the guidelines of their 3-year. Any questions, comments? No? Okay, we'll go to the next school. Girls Leadership Academy of Wilmington is currently a performance grade D. Growth status has not been met for 3 years. They're comparable, they have not been comparable to the LEA for 3 out of 3 years. This school is a new school. They are on their first renewing charter, and this is their information. Their African American students are performing within a comparable rate. Their Latino students are outperforming the LEA about 20 points. Their Caucasians falling below the LEA, and their 2 or more races are as well. Economically disadvantaged students are almost points behind, but their students with disabilities are around 7 points apart from the LEA. And with all that information being said, they fall within the 3-year placement of the guidelines.
Shonda, are they, I can't remember, are they expanding downward, or are they only going to be a 6-8 school?
They're actually growing upward, so they're adding, they added 8th grade this year, or they're adding 8th grade. So they're going up.
So they're going to be a 6-12.
Mm-hmm. I believe they're going to be stopping at 8, but the parent, well, everybody's asking for a high school, of course, but for now they have 8th grade.
Dr. Cooper, I believe the school is planning on being a 6-12.
Okay.
Excuse me, yes.
Let's see here. Okay, I'm gonna mark that down. Give me 1 second. All right. Do you have any questions about their placement within the guidelines?
I'm with this school, I'm very surprised that they just can't seem to make any progress. Because they had such a strong board, and I know they have lots and lots of support. I don't know what it is, they just can't get over the hump.
Yeah.
Sherry, I think one of the reasons is they're getting their students at 6th grade.
I know.
Yeah, so that might be one of the reasons they're having difficulty with their scores and their growth.
Yeah, I probably cautioned them about that years ago, Dave, but.
Well, but I mean, just because you get students in 6th grade doesn't mean you can't grow them. In fact, if they're significantly behind, you should be able to grow them more because they have more
opportunity for growth, yes.
I mean, I think they just built a new facility, right?
Yes,
it's really nice.
Well, hopefully they can get it together in the next 3 years now that they're in their permanent facility. And
yeah, and I just don't think that was the issue, Alex. These schools down here in Wilmington have been disappointing, to say the least.
they came and visited us. I think. Are they in the Access? Are they one of the groups that's invited into the Access program or whatever?
I don't believe
I'm not aware of them being an NC Access, no.
You know, they're
not sure forming. I was just wondering, are they low performing?
No, I did not see them on the low performing list. I will go back and double check.
They are low performing.
That's the thing. I don't see how they could not be.
Yeah.
Oh, but did they receive that? Because I know that all the low performing, continuing low performing is on a stay for this year. What year did they receive low performance status? Was it 2017? Because they've only been performing for 3 years.
Yeah, they're on the, well, we only have the 18-19 low performing schools list. So they are on that list. And I think
they would be at a stay, so another reason they would have to be in the 3 year.
yeah, they're actually on the continually low performing list. Because of the 3 years.
Yep.
D and not met. Yeah. There's a lot of passion at that school. I don't know exactly where the struggles are. I think hopefully the new building will help, just in terms of having better resources and not being so crowded. The old building was quite crowded.
Well,
so with that status, and it's on a stay, I mean, a 3 year is where they fall within the guidelines, and that would be it. Alex, were you going to say something?
No, I mean, it looks like they'll, it's their first renewal, so they'll get that 3 year and hopefully correct things.
Right.
Right the ship.
Turn it around.
Okay. All right, and I believe we're down to our last school. Cannot get mine. There we go. Coastal Preparatory Academy, grade C. They did not meet status or growth status for the last 2 years. They are closing the gap. In 17-18, they were a negative 15.1. In 18-19, negative 9.1. So that shows some improvement there. Their African American students and their Latino students are outperforming the LEA by many, many points.
They literally have like 3 of each, Shonda.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So
I mean, look at the whites. They're 20 points down.
Yes.
2 more races, almost 20 points down.
And the majority of their school is Caucasian. So.
Absolutely. They are in a housing development. So
with this look, at the school. Again, because of their comparability not being there, and not meeting growth, they have fallen within the 3-year category of the guidelines.
And this is another school I know has had quite a bit of turnover. Who's their leader now?
They had a change. Let me go back.
I believe it's Carla Fisher. Is that?
Yeah, Miss Fisher's there, but she just came on this year.
Yeah.
They had someone else last year.
That's about the third leader they've had then.
Yeah.
In 3 years.
So
information about that for them also.
Let's see. Tell me in the market.
I don't remember approving this school.
Leadership. I'm sorry?
I don't remember approving this school.
This school was originally on, oh gosh, Bruce, what was the name of,
It's the Greg, who does Greg Senders used to work for? Or?
Yeah, this is a school that was approved the same year that Pine Springs Preparatory Academy was approved. And the two boards had worked with an EMO that subsequently was terminated before you actually approved the, they terminated the EMO before the final applications.
and thusly changed their name because they weren't originally approved, it was Ignite. It was Ignite something.
No, that was the school in Pitt, but Ignite Learning provided guidance to this board in getting people up and running or getting the application through, but was not the EMO.
And this school is on their first 5 year. So I'm assuming that we do want the school to come before the board and discuss any kind of turnover issues and have supporting data, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions before we move on? Thank you guys for hanging in there. It's a lot of schools, a lot of information. We have Success Institute. Success is a performance grade D. They met status and met status last year, or the last year, most current year data, and they exceeded the year before that, met the year before that. This school has come before you several times. They are a small school, and you all have discussed with them before that it's hard to show growth without having more than one grade, more than one class per grade level. It's a lot. They are majority African American as a demographic school. And if you see here, they are closing in the gap. 16-17, they were at a negative 28.9, and they have currently gotten to a negative 19. They've closed in about 10 points there. So looking at their demographical breakdown, their African American students are outperforming the LEA. Their Latino students are well outperforming the LEA. They don't have enough Caucasian or two or more races or Asian population to form a subgroup percentage. Their students with disabilities are underperforming by about 13 points. And the economically disadvantaged subgroup, again, they are underperforming the county. But this is a snapshot of the school at a glance. So therefore, they fall within the 3-year guidelines. And because they have been, it's a small school. And like you've told them before, unless they can expand and increase their student numbers and have more testing population, it's difficult for them to move as much as they would like to. So any questions, comments, or concerns?
Have they had any leadership turnover?
They have not, no.
I remember these ladies are very passionate.
I will tell you, there's a lot of love in the school. And They have exceeded and met growth. They are showing growth. They're moving, but it'd be great if they could move a little bit faster. That is true. But I will say during COVID, just in checking in with all the schools throughout COVID that were in renewal process, they have been real boots on the ground for those students to the point of, finding alternative locations to be able to utilize their computers, because as you know, some homes don't have internet, or some homes are not suited for whatever the child might need during the day. They've worked out plans with, daycare centers just to make sure that their students who are not able to get what they need at home are still being able to get something during the day, or educational opportunities during the day. So again, small school, a lot of passion. They're moving, but I know you would like to see them move a little bit faster. Any comments, concerns, anything you need me to for this school as they prepare for you?
Well, it looks like their enrollment's still 100, so I guess they're staying steady.
They are steady. I keep telling them, y'all scare me with that number because it can't get any lower. But yeah, the people are staying. And that's maxed out, capacity-wise for them.
Are they in a church facility?
No, right now they're actually spread out among a few buildings because of having a distance to children, and the school that they have, the rooms are small, so it's ineffective. They are using a large open gym area of one of the churches just so that they can have in-person instruction with the social distancing that is required. So yes, as of now. But remember, they have two buildings. They have the one large one that they built that is the gym as well as the cafeteria, and then they have the smaller building that has the main classrooms in it.
Dr. Cooper, have they previously been renewed?
They have. This is not their first time. They've been open for a while.
Okay.
They renewed 3 years ago. Well, going on 3 years ago.
All right, it's 10:15. We're running a little behind here, so we need to keep moving unless we want to. I think we need to bring these folks in, but.
So I will speed up the process here, and you just let me know if I'm going too fast. This is our last school that we need to look at, Central Wake High School. The reason that they were not in the previous slides is because they are on a totally different system. They're an accountability model. And so here are their goals. I do have the full report of their goals that are written out exact, but here are the targets and here are the results. And as you see, their target was 375.6 and their results were 397. So all in all, the school has done a good job of meeting the targets that they had before them. The area credit earning rate is what exceeded, and that's awesome. So just something to think about. I did speak with the school and asked them for additional information that meets their alternative model, what we're looking for, their graduation rates and their retention rates. And these are their rates for the last 4 years. If you notice, the rate only dipped once in 2017, so they have been increasing their graduation rates, as well as the retention rate has gone back up. Hasn't yet met that 42%, but they're back at 41% for retention.
Shauna, just real quickly, what does it mean to have a retention rate? I mean, what are we?
Okay, great question. So the high school is a dropout prevention high school.
Right.
The school's responsibility is, as they promised SBE, was to gain those students who had dropped out of a LEA program and keep them there until they actually graduate. So the retention rate that you're looking at are the number of students that they took in for that year and then versus the number of students that left. So this year for 1920, they had 41% of the students that came in to stay. So that means that they lost the other 59%.
But we don't know. They could have gone back to the LEA or whatever.
Right. So, and there's additional for that. I can share the entire slide with you all. I can email that to you. But the majority of the students did not go back to an LEA, which would mean that they just decided not to continue. So, yeah. But this information is presented this way in all fairness to the school because they are not being compared to the LEA. They serve a totally different purpose. They do have another slide after that, just for accountability purposes, that looks like the other schools. But if we did this comparison, it would not be just a fair comparison to them because they're not being compared to the LEA. They're being compared to themselves and their ability to do what they said they would do, which was to retain and graduate dropout students that have come to them. Do you have any questions for me?
I mean, I think one of the things we have to remember is that these are, of course, students that have already dropped out. A lot of them are already outside their cohort by the time they get to the school.
That's correct.
So I think that's something we have to remember. And I think when you look at this, you see a 27% graduation rate. It would be 0 for those students without this school. So I think we have to remember that.
That's correct.
If we can get 5 kids to graduate that didn't, that's great.
Yes. So, and remembering, last year or 2 years ago, the sister schools to this school, they were granted 7 years on their for a new charter after having their initial 5. So that's just something for you to consider as you contemplate what your recommendations are going to be. But this school has definitely been putting in a lot of effort with the community. They actually have a positive working relationship with the county, and that says a lot. So, and again, leadership has worked closely to make sure that we have all the information that we need, and that's greatly appreciated as well. So, all that considered, that's the last of the presentation for renewals today. I know it went a little bit over. Thank you for your questions, and I'll make sure that I get all this processed and communicate with schools that need to come before you.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that all schools that were not in the automatic 10-year renewal come for an interview.
I'll second Stephen.
Okay, properly moved and seconded, and all in favor, or any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
All right. So we are 20 minutes behind on our application time for our agenda here. So I'm hoping that potentially we'll make it up, or we'll cut our lunch break short. Thankfully, we built an hour in, so I'm ready to turn it over to Darian for Dr. Jones for introduction to interviews.
Good morning, CSAB. Since we met yesterday, I'll shorten my intro or overview of the process. Highlights today is that we have 2 first-round schools and 2 returning second-round schools this afternoon. Just to the applicants, the process is on the screen for the new virtual process that we'll go through. Making the introductions now. The applicant will get 10 minutes to do an opening statement, introduce board members, and then full CSAB will have a 25-minute discussion. Applicant will then make a 10-minute closing statement, and then full CSAB will debate at the end. To the applicants, please try not to interrupt CSAB during their 25-minute debate unless they ask you direct and specific questions. Okay, Ashley. First school this morning is Heritage Collegiate Leadership Academy, locating in Wake County. I asked for a zip code, which we put at the bottom. They're presently looking for a specific facility. So around that particular zip code that I used, you see the schools that are within 5 to 6 miles of that location. And there's some language down at the bottom about the specific student population that they're trying to attract or serve to their school. Here's a quick overview. Year 1, they're going to start with K6, 700 students. Year 2, they're going to move to 7th grade, 800 students. Year 3, K8, up to 900 students. Capacity will be reached in year 3. Their total attraction is 900 students, roughly 100 per grade level. National lunch program, transportation, weighted lottery, facility specifically Northeastern Wake County. No LEA impact statement. They are repeat applicants, and there is no EMO or CMO partnership. And I'll turn it over to
All right, if the applicants would like to begin their 10-minute opening statement.
Okay, if you can hear me, this is Dr. Kashi Bazemore, and I am going to start as the board chair for HCLA. I just want to start by thanking Dr. Jones for the introduction, as well as all of the CSAB members for allowing us to come to present to you today. HCLA, we are coming before you a second time because we believe in the educational program that we have developed. We also know that and believe that CSAB was not able to fully experience and receive the important work that we were doing when we initially opened in Berkeley County. In our first 2 years of operation, when we had Office of Charter Schools consultants coming out, we were excited. We had a great relationship with the Office of Charter Schools. We really appreciated the site visit feedback that we were receiving each time they visited. And we all know that some things happened in the community that led to the school eventually having its charter assumed. We have continued to support the children that we initially served in Berkeley County with no finances or money being received. We were that, and still are, that committed to these children and the community. And so I would just like to share with the board that as I highlight evidence of what we did successfully in our first school, if you look at the first cohort of third graders that we had when we opened in 2014, those scholars are now ninth grade students, and it is undeniable the influence that HCLA had on them. We have a significant number of our former students who are in the regional STEM school in Jamesville, North Carolina. Several are in the Burt T. Early College High School. My daughter is participating in the Magnet program here in Wake County, and we have several who are also participating with the virtual charter schools. And we have maintained communication and supports with these children. And that year, that was our last year, that group of students, almost 70% of them passed the reading test, and just over 50% passed the math end of grade test. And so one of the things that we feel that we really did not get across last time is that we do have a program that also seeks to attract high numbers of children with ADHD and autism. We have been working with Dr. Jim Poole Since we had the Berkeley County School, he decided to get into telemedicine, and this was even before COVID-19. And so at that school, we weren't just educating children. We had a dental clinic that came out, and we provided the dental program said that these were the best children they ever worked with. They came every year, twice a year. But not just that. HCLA's mission is to prepare its scholars to become college and career-bound, service-oriented leaders who are motivated to make a difference in their communities and the world. And we take this mission very seriously. And so if you all are familiar with the historic floods that we had in Berkeley County back in 2016, it was HCLA that responded to the community's needs with a helping hand store that stayed open for 1 month. And this year, when we had the dreadful tornadoes to come through, there was a lot of confusion because no one was there to take the lead on receiving donations and things like that. But we're not just preparing kids to be servant leaders. We have a solid approach to academics. We do use whatever the curriculum is for the state at the time, so the standard course of study would be our focus. However, it is the focus on efficacy and Carol Dweck's research on mindset. We have an unwavering focus on growth versus fixed mindsets, and we do morning meetings every day instead of just homeroom, and we believe that's a way to start the day. At HCLA, teachers, scholars, and families are united around the same goals: college preparation or career preparation, growing great leaders and serving our communities. And we believe that with collective hard work, as evidenced by our first school, and in the end, when you saw the parents step up and assume the roles on the board when there was confusion and governance. I can tell you this, we were very excited about our work with Board on Track. We invested in consulting with them because we ended up last time with a relatively new board at such a critical time. And as we go forward this time, we are seeking to begin with the end in mind, just as we ask children to do when they're looking at Habit 2 of Stephen Covey's Highly Effective People. We begin with the end in mind. So we've already had a conversation with Board on Track. We also have reached out to Dr. Tom Miller. We are excited to know that he is handling all of Board on Track's coaching and training supports for charter school boards in North Carolina, because we were originally a part of the first group of the North Carolina Charter Accelerator Program, and Dr. Miller worked with us in that capacity. And so he is very familiar with our program. He also, go ahead, sir. Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure that we're monitoring the clock. So you have 4 minutes. I just want to make sure that we get intros to the other board members so we know who to ask questions of. So
yes, sir.
If you cycle through, that would be good.
Okay, so if we
I just don't want
have,
to any time.
thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. We have 3 other board members on the board today, as well as our board advisor and lead applicant, Mildred Bazemore. For Mildred Bazemore, she is the lead applicant. She is the person who we all look to as we're discussing the budget, as well as testing goes. Ms. Bazemore is the former chief of testing for DPI. We also have Captain Michael Dunn, who is a naval officer. He is a commercial airline pilot, and he gives us expertise in the STEM area. He's on the advisory board for the ECSU, the Elizabeth City State University's aviation program. Mr. Kelly Chesson he works with the North Carolina Central University Partnership, Institutional Advancement and Partnership Section. He is a fundraiser. He is a person who coordinates partnerships with North Carolina Central. And then Travis Bond is a native of Berkeley County. He's a UNC Chapel Hill graduate. Mr. Chesson is too, by the way. He's a native of Washington County. But he is a current marketing professional. He has just accepted a new position with a marketing firm out of Charlotte. He's also got mental health background and athletic background. And I come to you as well with backgrounds, but I will allow each of them to briefly introduce themselves. So starting with you, Ms. Bazemore.
And we're asking board members if you are able to have your camera on. That's what we are asking board members to have their camera on so that we can see them.
And please also make sure you're unmuting. Ms. Bazemore, are you there? Okay, if Ms. Bazemore is not available, Captain Dunn, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Dunn. I am a captain with United Airlines. I've been with United Airlines just over 30 years. I'm a former naval officer prior to that. I do serve on the Elizabeth City State University Board of Advisors for the aviation program. I'm a citizen of Wake County, and my wife and I have raised 3 children and educated them here in Wake County for, grade school and high school. And they're either, one's a doctor of pharmacy now, and 2 are undergraduate students at state institutions. And I thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity for allowing me to speak with the board.
Thank you so much, Captain Dunn. Is Ms. Bazemore available now? Okay, we'll go on to Mr. Kelly Chesson.
Good morning, everyone and board. And again, I'd like to also thank you all for agreeing to meet with us and seeing what our school is about. I am a 30-year-old young man from Washington County, as Dr. Bazemore so eloquently said earlier. I'm in stewardship, and I do work for North Carolina Central University. I also do some consulting for the North Carolina Department of Transportation as well. So I'm a man of many talents, and I'm just honored to be able to serve on the Heritage Collegiate Leadership Academies board. And again, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chesson. And I will go to Mr. Travis Bond.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here. 29-year-old native of Berkeley. Graduated from UNC, now working in a marketing firm. Just retired from football after 7 years professionally. Just an honor to be here, eager to learn. Just glad to be a part of HCLA and just showing what we can bring back to the community.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bond, and I will check once more to see if Mildred Bazemore is available. I know she was having some problems with the technology. And so, board, I do apologize for her not being available to introduce herself. She does serve as our board advisor, and the board does, she is very involved with every facet of what we do, but I do want to emphasize that she is not a member of the board. She is not a voting she does not have a vote. She is purely works with the board in an advisory capacity. And then finally, Dr. Jim Poole has been fully vetted and is expected to be voted into the board at our next regular meeting on October 26th. And he worked with the original HCLA, as I said. I also want to emphasize that he has several medical practices and fast brain clinics here in Wake County, and he works with thousands of young people who are in the age group that we will be serving. And I have been very involved with the Fast Brain Clinic program for I'd say about 8 years. And so we are just.
Thank you.
Yes,
I'm going
thank
to
you.
pause you there because we're going to get into some questions now.
Yes, sir.
So that closes your 10-minute introduction, and then we have about 25 minutes for the board to ask specific questions. So I'm just going to ask, I just want some quick clarification, and then I'm going to open up to the rest of the board for to see what they're interested in discussing. Real quick, how many board members that are on the roster, right? So Mr. Dunn, Kelly Chesson, Michael Dunn, Kelly Chesson, Travis Bond, Erica Lucas, Dr. Stanley Elliott, and Dr. Bazemore. Is that correct?
So that was correct. Erica Lucas is no longer on the board. We addressed that at the board meeting last month.
Okay.
There was a conflict, so she is not a board member.
Okay, so you have 5 board members, is that?
That is correct. We have 5 at this time. We will add Dr. Poole at the regular meeting this month, which will take us to 6, and we are continuously recruiting.
And then there are 4 here today. You,
Yes, sir.
Yourself, Travis, Kelly, Eichel, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And 3, it looks like 1, 2, 3 of you live in Wake County, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay, board members, questions or specific areas you'd like to delve into on the application today? Why don't we start with mission, purposes, and goals? I'm just asking the board for potential questions. You can also put it in the chat box, board members, if that's easier for you.
Mr. Quigley, Chair Quigley, I apologize. I want to reiterate to the board that actually 4 out of 5 live in Wake County. Mr. Bond lives in Charlotte. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. I saw some just wait to see if anyone jump in there. I'll get it going a little bit here. So I have some questions around in the general mission, purposes, and goals, just the grade span, the kind of scale and of the initial plan, and want to talk a little bit about that. You know, what grades are we opening with? What are we looking at there? Then I also have some questions. I personally have some questions around things in the ed plan that I want to dig into, and then other members, other things.
Yeah, Chairman Quigley, this is Mr. Friend. I have questions to get into the application around level of community interest, and so that, then you're on into budget. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Alex, on the original application information where they give the breakdown, first of all, where, I know they say northeast Wake County, but I would like to know what other schools are in that vicinity, because starting with K-6, that's quite an aggressive grade span with 700 students. That was concerning to me. Also, when I was looking at documents that were submitted, and then there were things throughout the application, the school is referenced as Bertie, and I can't remember if it was the Articles of Incorporation, one of those documents, legal documents, maybe the one that you, the bylaws, one of them.
It was the bylaws.
Says Bertie.
Yes, ma'am. So I can answer that quickly. When we were a part of the Charter Accelerator, we were the only ones that were tapped to be a CMO at the time. And so Mr. Allison encouraged us to add a Bertie County. This corporation has been continuously active. We have done our audits. This is a $25 name change. And until that takes place, I have left the original name there because legally that is the name. When we change it, that we would do a name change to drop all references to any county, and it would just be Heritage Collegiate Leadership Academy.
Because Dr. Bazemore, in your original information, you say the name of the nonprofit is Heritage Collegiate Leadership Academy of Wake County.
So that is what we were looking at changing the name to, but the board has decided that we are only focusing on this school. We're not looking at expanding and looking at any other counties. And so that would be a typo. I do apologize. It will be Heritage Collegiate Leadership Academy.
Chair, are you still taking questions? You just want generalized questions?
I was just trying to focus. I think I have like a general, I feel like I'm ready to kind of guide our conversation here, so.
I can tell you, Mr. Quigley, the question was asked about the other schools. The picture that was included as one of the last documents that was, I believe, put there by Dr. Jones, he referenced it when he was speaking to you all. It does look at the schools in the area. So you have Torchlight Academy, Casa Esperanza Montessori, Neuse River Middle School, Millbrook Magnet Elementary School, Thales Academy, a private school, Roseville Charter Academy, Brentwood Elementary, Riverbend Elementary and Middle, East Millbrook Middle School. Those are just some of the Con Magnet Elementary School of Entrepreneurial Designs. Those are just some of the schools that show up.
Okay, good. All right, so Dr. Hare, just message me your question in the chat box and I can include it. So I think we had a number of people that had some questions about enrollment. So if you could walk us in kind of the initial growth projections. So I'll try to encompass the questions that I'm seeing. First, give us your rationale for a K-6 start with 700 students and, particularly given that the evidence of support is not commensurate with that scale of opening. We're in the petitions of support document that was uploaded in the application, we're looking at roughly 40 to 50 families. So walk us through how you arrived at that number of 700 and, given a competitive marketplace, you yourself were just listing all the schools in that general area. How to get the students that aren't needed to meet this starting point.
Okay, thank you, sir. So I would say that for the past year, I've been working as a part of my business, Added Education Solutions, LLC, providing online tutoring services for children in this area of the community. I also was vice president of the local PTA at Riverbend Middle School, and before going on to become a state board member. And so I've been very involved with communicating with parents and families, even around issues pertaining to COVID-19 and the reopening of schools. But more importantly, I've been a person who has become highly sought out to have candid conversations around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the reason that we are aggressively moving forward with the K-6 model as compared to our first application that we had, which was K-3, we believe that we know how to do this. We believe that that we have demonstrated that we could get the enrollment, that we could provide nutrition and, for every child and transportation. We have demonstrated that we could provide the type of academic structure and culture at the school that would lead to student growth. I'll remind you that for the 2017-18 year, we did make growth.
Okay, so I just want
as
to
a
pause
school
right
for
there.
reading and
Just-
math.
You mentioned the K to 6. There was the whole paragraph on question 16 defending the structure of a 3 to 9 school. So again,
Yes, sir.
just real specifically.
Yeah, so with the summary memo, if you look at that, we had some problems with updating. In the last days, the board and the planning team worked together and made decisions that we originally had looked at grades 5 through 9, and the board took in everything that the planning team shared with them, and it was a decision that we would follow the same exact structure that we had. We attempted to update this in the system along with the budget.
Okay.
And
So
and
you're
that's
saying
the
just,
problem.
we don't want to spend any more time than is necessary.
Yes, sir.
So you're saying it is a K to 6, 7.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so getting back to the original question of, heard kind of demand for, in the work that you've done, but I'm looking at this and the data isn't really supporting, the competitive marketplace and in Wake County. And,
So here quickly.
just about, the signatures there's just not a lot of evidence here to support the number of students. So how are you arriving at that?
So let me just say that I've got more.
Start across those grade levels, all those grade levels.
I've got about 10 more pages of petitions. What we submitted to you all was what we consider to be a snapshot, which is the way that they did it in the past. And so I do apologize for not giving you all of the petitions. And those were signatures that were gathered prior to COVID-19. And so we're going to begin after we figure out what your decision is today. We wanted to begin virtual information sessions to invite people in Northeastern Raleigh and Durham and all of the areas that we've said we would pull from. We want to give them the opportunity to hear about our program. And this is exactly what we did before, except it was in person. We will also visit local churches and civic groups in the area. I've already spoken. Yes, sir.
That makes, all right. I mean, that's more than getting in the recruitment plan. I think the challenge here is 700 is a huge number of students to start with. One, it's a huge number to yield from a recruitment standpoint for a startup school that's not working with a management organization. I saw your break-even number is 537, so we'll get into that when we talk about the budget.
Okay.
I think. Let's talk about the budget and then we'll circle back to the ed plan. So one of the issues that a couple of folks have said is that when they downloaded the budget, it was blank except for the projected. Has that been rectified at OCS?
Yes.
It looks like what we're looking at has budget items clarified. Can someone?
The new budget was uploaded, and Ashley sent that out earlier last week.
Okay, and why are we getting budgets? This is irrespective to this particular school. Why are we getting budgets after the application? Because this is not the only school this has happened with. I'm a little bit frustrated because we're getting multiple documents that are not submitted on time properly. Is that a system with the Edlusion era? Like, what is going on here? Because it starts to feel like people are potentially, we had that yesterday, people submitting blank documents and buying themselves another 5 days on this. I mean, and for applicants who are listening, it needs to be in on time. There's a deadline, we need to meet the deadline, irrespective of this application. And I don't know off charter schools if we are seeing some, this is kind of a broader issue. Maybe we need to address it as a board at some point. But it's very difficult for us to receive multiple documents.
Chair Quigley, I can tell you.
Effectively.
This is Dr. Bazemore. I can tell you it was a problem with Adlusion. We were working directly with someone from Adlusion, and we were updating and uploading, and it was coming in as blank. It was having problems with receiving it. And so this was definitely a technology concern for us, that the budget that we have, that you've got in your documents is the same as what we had on a data application.
We have the up-to-date budget now, so we're ready to discuss it. And again, I'm
Yes, sir.
speaking broadly than just HCLA here.
Yes, sir.
I had to vent for a second. Okay.
Alex, this is Bruce. I want to echo that. It's extremely frustrating, and I will go out and say that I don't feel prepared to comment on the budget because I'm seeing it for the first time. And I don't know how I review an application when I'm getting documents sent through it, getting them email, getting them the day before a review.
Yeah, I guess that's my follow up to that for Dr. Jones. What are all these documents in the interview piece on? I understand the HCLA feedback document. This application seems to have way more documents on eBoard than other schools, and I'm just kind of I'm going to pause and I'm going to take just 2 minutes, and I will give this time back. But like, more broadly, we cannot allow schools to submit a whole bunch of things after the deadline, period, full stop. Like, this might be something for, I think we need to put this in the parking lot for things for next year, but like, this can't happen. Like, I don't care, technology, otherwise, like, this can't happen. This is not a workable thing where we get 20 documents that are attached to the application in eBoard after the fact, and we saw some of that yesterday. So like, from a process standpoint, this can't happen again. We're gonna have to fix this.
Alex, if I may.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure when these applications are reviewed for completeness, statutorily they get 5 days, but after that, there should be no new submissions.
Right.
Unless, we go like we did yesterday with the school, so we want to bring you back for round 2, but you seriously have to change or look up. I mean, the file was so large, Ashley could not even upload it to us. So, the evaluators, none of the evaluators, external or us, should ever start looking at these until they are deemed complete.
Right, and then everything needs to be uploaded into the platform itself, and there shouldn't be
Complete. That means,
and then you're not allowed to give us anything else.
So currently, the process allowed for us to provide supporting documents of evidence through that Thursday before. And these things, if you don't look at them, it's not going to hurt the process. These were things that we added in response to the questions from CSAB.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, but we're gonna, that's in more on at the board level. Like, we're gonna have to rectify this. And
this is Dave Machado. Because of there were certain applicants that did submit blank copies, and once we started doing our completeness check, we did give these applicants extended time to get everything in. You're exactly right. Our office has got to do a better job with the cutoffs and when things are allowed. And then some of the documents that you're discussing right now, I think were responses to the feedback they got from external evaluators. And that's another thing that our office has got to clean up, whether we're accepting those or putting them in a different area or something. So we apologize for not holding fast to statute and to deadlines.
Yeah, Dave, and I'm not trying to beat anybody up here. I feel like, and I hold us all, we're also accountable as a board. Like, we've got to have these systems really clear. I know that we've switched between 2 to 3 different systems in the last 3 years, which is part of the problem. Okay, but that's 5 minutes of my time. So I want to get back to the specifics. Let's talk about this budget and what specific questions to the budget that we're seeing do board members have, if any?
Alex, this is Lynn Kroger, and the first thing that jumps out at me is when you look at benefits, there's nothing budgeted for payroll taxes. So that's very concerning. But again, I haven't had a lot of time to really look at this budget thoroughly. But again, when you look at the revenues, that's projected on a very high number, which is also concerning.
Okay, and I'd like to direct this question to, who is the finance chair of the board?
That we just did the officers, which I just gave you, and the committees will be discussed and selected at our October 26th meeting.
Okay, so I'll just randomly pick someone. So,
Okay. Ms. Bazemore is the one who handled the budget.
Well, Ms. Bazemore is not a board member. So
Yes, sir.
The captain, what role have you had in the development of this budget?
I've had no role in the development of the budget. My role with the board ongoing would be as a fiduciary, once the budget is approved and to see that the budget is properly appropriated. But I have not developed the budget at all. I've had no role in it.
Have you seen the budget?
No, not until just now.
Okay. How about one of the other gentlemen? I'll ask the same question. What role have you had in the budget development?
None.
Okay. And someone else?
I've had no role in the development.
Okay.
It was the planning team that did all of that.
The planning team, which is
There are several people that you are not familiar with, but that you've got Mildred Bazemore, but there also was Dr. Rhonda Dunn, Damian Clay, and Shaka Phillips.
Okay. I think the concern is, at the end of the day, the board is, as the gentleman said, the board is ultimately responsible and the fiduciary. So when we have
Absolutely.
a board that hasn't even seen a budget, that's it's a flag. Okay, so
They saw the budget. I submitted the budget to the board as a part of the full application that was going before CSAB. And so they were familiar that the board was there, that the budget was there, but we did not go through it and look at it line item. I told them that we would be coming up with board goals as a part of our October regular meeting. And at that point, after we got past today, we would get deeper into everything. And so that's the way that works.
Board members say they've never seen the budget.
They've seen the budget, but they've not developed the budget. And they got it electronically because we're not meeting in person due to COVID-19. So therein lies the confusion. Certainly, if we are allowed to go forward, the board understands its role with regard to overseeing the budget.
Just had a board member say they had not seen the budget until just now. So is that board member not accurate?
I think the question would be access to the budget.
No, the question was, have you seen the budget? And the response was, I had not seen it until just now.
yeah, I mean that was pretty clear.
That's what they said.
Okay, so given that, why don't we, board members, any questions for the board on this budget?
Alex, this is Rita. would like to know, have an explanation for the $150,000 in the travel expenses. That's each year, $150,000, except year 4 is $150. If she could speak to that, please.
Ms. Bazemore, are you there?
Dr. Bazemore.
Yes, sir.
I know that Ms. Bazemore she's part of the planning team, but not the.
She is.
But she's not on the board. So we don't generally talk to consultants, which effectively the planning team is essentially a team of consultants that have no formal association or contract with the school. So we're not actually, and we don't really engage with them, and we're not really, there are plenty of people hire and work with people to write their application, but we're interested in the board. That's who is issued the charter.
Right.
So I guess.
So the fact that she's the lead applicant is not relevant?
That means she wrote the applicant, correct?
Right.
She wrote
Yes.
the application, but is she on the board?
She's not on the board.
Do you have a contract with her?
We do not. So if the board member with the question about travel, I'm just looking to see where that is. That would be consistent with transportation, not travel. So that should be listed as transportation.
Okay, Dr. Bazemore, why do you only have $150 for year 4?
That was a typo. Because if you see the $150,000 for the other years, why that one is $150, that is clearly a typo.
So that really changes your bottom line.
What is the travel? Is the travel because you have 40,000 for buses, 40,000 for gas, 15 for tires, maintenance.
So as you know, Don McQueen now has all of the buses that belong to Heritage Collegiate Leadership Academy. He got the first 4 as a part of the settlement agreement ordered by the judge in Windsor Superior Court, and then he came back last year and took all of the rest of the buses. So that line item is because we're going to have to purchase buses. Because we don't have any
what I'm asking
buses that we
is
had before.
what I'm asking is you said travel was transportation, so you have $150,000.
So that could be fuel. That could be fuel. Fuel.
You have fuel as its own line. Gas as its own line, $40,000.
We definitely built in some safeguards based on what we saw before. So if you look at the buses, that's for purchase of buses. Gas is listed as gas, oil, tires, and maintenance is there. And so transportation, she has it listed as travel. I had concerns about whether that was enough money in the budget for fuel based on what we were spending before, and that this would be more buses, although the miles might not be as many as we were driving before. So this is about adding in a cushion, if you will, to make sure that we had the totals that we needed for transportation, which is a huge cost if you are providing transportation for all students.
I just think there's some issues here, because you have buses as its own line, but then there's no funding in it for the first year. But then travel it's the wrong line. It shouldn't be in there. That's not we assume that to be travel, like board travel or.
Yes, sir. And clearly that number would not be that high. And so if given the permission.
Why are we looking at $234,000 for staff development? That seems exceptionally high. What is that paying for?
So I can tell you that that number is, we are looking at working with Dana Sanders from KIPP Houston, again, except more so on the front end with developing the resources for our staff development, as well as training our leaders. And also you have to pay beyond when you pay for AVIDs, you have to also pay for them to come. And I think that number is high, but when I discussed that with Ms. Bazemore, I said, let's go high, and then that would be something that we could pull back as we get more information. But we had about half of that last time, and so basically I doubled it because I wanted to make sure that we had the resources needed to ensure that our staff was developed.
Okay, I'm gonna pause right here. Board members, we're at Ms. Beccaro informed me that she stopped time for our discussion on documents. We're at 25 minutes of questioning. What I want to do is make sure to give Dr. Bazemore to make her final closing statement, then have discussion time. And if we need to ask another question, we can. I didn't get to that. But if we need to ask a question, we always, of course, can ask another question, but I want to go ahead and give that 10 minutes right now.
Okay, and so I'm speaking now, I'm closing now?
Yeah, you have 10 minutes to make a closing statement. You don't have to use all of that time, obviously, but.
Okay, yes, sir. So I hold up here, and I'm not even sure how it's showing up. But if you look at the documents that we provided, we gave you something that provided the Ds and Fs, the D and F schools in the county. It's listed as Wake County DF schools and NE, Northeast Raleigh. And this is the list of them. And so you've got the majority of the schools in Wake County School District that serve this community, where you have a larger number of immigrant students, minority students, and free and reduced lunch students. And yet this area of the county, we've got so many schools that are either a D or an F. And again, we believe that we have demonstrated that we can do recruiting. There was discussion in the past about whether we could pull off a charter school in Berkeley County. And as you know, we put a transportation plan in place that was picking up children from 6 counties. When you look at our enrollment, this is not all pulling from Wake County Public Schools. We are looking at homeschool students. We are looking at private school students in this county and in neighboring counties. And so we have always said that we wanted to make this available to Wake County, Nash County, Durham County, other counties that are on the border of Wake County, and we've demonstrated that we were able to do that before. Again, we believe that what we're doing is something that's truly special. Some of our program features include AVID as the college prep framework. We have a focus on rigor, engagement, and joy factor. If you're familiar with the KIPP program, and HCLA's program is very similar to the KIPP program. I was a teacher leader with KIPP. I helped to develop their character program, and that's the reason Mr. Dave Levin has given me express permission to use it as is, as a part of our program. But with my fellowship with Building Excellent Schools, I also was very involved with Uncommon Schools. I was actually trained by Dave Levin. I got to shadow Julie Jackson, who is now president of Uncommon Schools, but that's when she was a leader of a charter school in Newark. And I would just say to the board. If you all need clarification on things, if you have questions, my humble request would be that you would give us that feedback and allow us to respond to your questions given the totality of the circumstances. If you spoke with Senator Erica Smith, who visited the school in Berkeley County many times and was our biggest supporter because she saw what we were doing, and the fact that we never did have anyone from CSAP that actually visited the school, I would just really humbly request the opportunity to address any concerns that you have as a part of a second opportunity to come before you if you felt that that was necessary. But I humbly and respectfully ask that you consider what we have done, that we had several buses that at our highest, before we ran into issues with the state, we were serving 336 children in northeastern North Carolina. And I've often said that I'm very proud of the work that we did, and that a lot of misconceptions are what came forward and came out of the assumption process. And I'm humbly requesting the opportunity to demonstrate that this is an education program that works. We certainly as a board would be willing to consider a reduction in numbers and would ask the board to consider limiting the enrollment numbers if you have concerns about that. But, you know, it was a huge sacrifice to come back before you to raise the funds for this application fee, and I humbly and respectfully request the opportunity to move forward with any concerns that you may have. And with regard to the budget, as you know, when you are applying for a charter, that there's a lot of information there. We made the decision to apply in this cycle with very little time, and the planning team was working around the clock as I was recruiting for the board, and I've met with the board twice to train them to go through everything after our first meeting, and this is a work in process. We are very new in this process, and that is the reason you have a planning year. So I just really humbly respect and respectfully request that you all recognize that you have things built into this process that would allow you to get the information that you want from us, as well as to provide the supports. Dave Machado and someone else came and trained our last board. That is something that I definitely wanted to see if it was still available while we're trying to wait to get the funds. Board on Track requires at the very least $2,400 up front. And so, you know, you've got all these dichotomies that exist with the charter authorization process, but we are highly skilled individuals. We have a program that we know works, and it is my, again, humble request that you give us the opportunity to move forward to answer any concerns that you have, but please do give us the opportunity to move forward. And Chair Quigley, that concludes my closing.
Okay, board members, we have a few minutes to discuss, and of course, if we want to ask any other questions of the board, can certainly do that if we need to, but generally this is our time to discuss any concerns or questions and that we have, anything remaining, and whether or not we want to move the applicant forward to the next round.
Chair Quigley, this is Heather Buchanan. I have major concerns about the board, some members of the board, just seeing the budget for the first time. Given that we were told there were technology issues on the original upload, which means the budget should have been ready even the next hour or the next day if the technology was ready to be corrected. So there should have been plenty of opportunity for the full board to see the budget. And so I have concerns about that, which kind of also could also equate to them not fully understanding the application. And we know that financial issues are a major reason for charter schools not being successful. So those are my comments. I just wanted to share with the board.
If I may speak, this is Kelly Chesney on the board.
Not right now. Sorry. If we have a direct question, we'll direct it to you.
Indeed. Thank you.
Yep.
Chair Quigley, this is Bruce. And I'll go next. I share these concerns. Submission issues aside, through Edlusion, just heard directly from board members that they had not seen the budget before today. That really raises a question in my mind about how much of this application they've actually seen and can speak to. And we really weren't given an opportunity for any other board members to really share their why they're a part of this and what they know and don't know about the application. If I'm going to put a yes vote in for a charter school, I've got to have confidence that every single board member, while board members all have their certain areas of expertise, we didn't even get a chance to really even hear from them today. And I still have a lot of concerns too about just proving to me that there's interest in this school. There were 36 names on a petition given to us, but they want to enroll 700 students. We didn't hear anything about surveys that may have been done with prospective parents. We got a list of 36 names, and I realized they're saying that, well, that was going to come after today. Well, no, that needs to come before today. We have to have that information now, not on the presumption that it will be forthcoming. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Chair Quigley.
Chair Quigley, this is Hilda Burley. I was disappointed that I didn't hear from the other board members, which would have shown cohesiveness and the fact that all voices would have been shared with us today. And then, of course, the budget issues and proof that the community really wants this school and that the school has bent over backward to prove that to us. But again, I was disappointed from just hearing only one board member speak today. Thank you.
Chair Quigley, I'll just concur with my colleagues' comments. I had the same reactions, and I'm not referring to any loss through the uploads to Edlusion, but everything that I did see and I did review. I thought there was also a lot of conflicting information in the application itself, as well as the other things that have been mentioned, and have concerns that Dr. Bazemore and her board are really ready. I know she feels some hurt from past efforts and really has a desire to see a school go forward. I just don't think the preparedness is there yet. Thank you.
Okay, I want to just briefly hear from the other board members, given that was something that I'm hearing from board members. So I guess the question is, why this school, and what do you know about the educational plan and vision of the school and how it's going to move students? I know there was, and I believe Chesson, Kelly Chesson wanted to say something, so I'll allow that just for a quick minute and then move to Mr. Bond and Mr. Dunn.
Indeed. Well, thank you again for the opportunity to speak. I was a former teacher at HCLA on the closing run of the school. I came with about 3 months left in the semester. I left Washington County Schools, which was a D performing type of district. And I did go to HCLA knowing Dr. Bazemore and the school's problems. I really did see a lot of improvements at her school from the traditional public education system, including her, college readiness the idea of mindfulness, and the kids were actually learning Avid. The debate team that was actually competing across and up and down the East Coast. So it was a lot of good things that I did see at the school. I do think that Dr. Bazemore is very committed to this mission of the school, and and giving kids educational opportunities. I do think that the other board members too are well vested in this as well. In regards to the budget, I personally, and this is me personally, we did get the application. I didn't look at the budget myself just because I knew that I couldn't answer questions on financials because I'm no accountant. So we do have people in place for that. So I do just ask that you do consider, and that is my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bond?
Well, I worked with HCLA back in 2017. I took employment with Dr. Hall at HCLA, and it was during my off season, and I was hired as a head athletic director. And she asked me to put in place, student scholar program that'll help the kids, benefit from learning athletics, and create it as to so where they can formulate their learnings from sports into the classroom. I'm a firm believer of being a student athlete or a scholar athlete. For me, it was kind of more so the same thing. I'm from Bertie, so I know what comes with the territory. So a lot of people didn't understand how sports incorporate with education. So my job was to help come up with a plan to secure athletes to be able to market themselves on the court as well as off the court. Help with grammar, sports help with more things than just your athletic ability. And Dr. Hall gave me the opportunity to showcase that with the students that enter in the program for 4th and 5th graders. And I began to see a change of behavior and grades. Students started to escalate. It was a promising thing for me because it was my first time doing it. She gave me the opportunity while I was still playing football. And I just asked everybody, just consider what she done for the community that I come from and where she come from. There's not a lot of people that do great things like that. And for me, looking at the budget during the application, I'm just like Mr. Chesson. I wasn't all the way aware of how the budget works with everything. So like Dr. Hall said, it was more so Ms. Mildred that took handle of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Dunn.
Yes, I'd just like to speak on Dr. Bazemore's commitment to the project and her vision is just, it's second to none. What I bring to the board is, in a sense, some balance in that I am not an educator, and I am a member of the community, and I am somewhat familiar with Dr. Bazemore's success there in Bertie County, and I believe that she has a great deal to offer to Wake County and our community here. In regards to my reviewing the budget, I was not aware that I would be asked specifically about the budget in and of itself. I did receive a copy of the application prior to, but I was of the impression that I could defer that answer specifically in terms of like budgetary issues or regulatory issues to someone on the planning committee or someone else on the staff. So I apologize for that, in all honesty.
Okay, thank you. Okay, comments from other CSAB members at this time?
Alex, excuse me, this is Sherry. I thank the other board members for their inputs. Clearly, we're not questioning Dr. Bazemore's passion. The questions I have deal with the application itself. One, I'm very concerned about the grade span and the enrollment numbers. I don't understand why the shift to Northeast Wake if, Bertie County is really, where the heart lies, so to speak. And then, I understand that there's lots of components to the ed plan, but for me, it was not cohesive in any manner. It was difficult to read when I was trying to envision this in my head, and we're talking about 700 kids. I know in the school, the former school in Bertie County, there was never an enrollment number of that magnitude. I personally, and I have, this is my first chance looking at the budget. So I just do not feel this application is ready at all to move forward, and I would make the motion as such.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Heather Van Cannon, second.
Okay, it's been properly moved in second. Discussion on the motion. I mean, I would echo the sentiments of the other board members. I think, you know, I actually think Dr. Bazemore has identified some strong potential board members, but there seems to be a lot of investment in the authors of the application who are not the board and not the ones that are issued the charter. And even asking her questions about the budget, there was some lack of understanding there. And I think the budget, the structure as Ms. Reeves outlined in terms of, you know, starting with 700 students across all those grade levels in a highly competitive marketplace with not evidence in the application of a significant demand. I think this needs more work. It's not ready to move forward. And I think as a rule that we need to default to, we do not put schools in ready to open to then correct the errors that are in the application that was submitted. That is not the purpose of ready to open. The purpose of the ready to open is to prepare schools that have an application that is absolutely ready for prime time. And I think any time that we move into that we feel tempted to put folks in ready to open to correct an application that's not inferior or even that just doesn't meet the criteria, we are hurting the authorization process, and we are lowering the rigorous bar to entry that has to be the hallmark of the authorization process, because the number one way we prevent charter school failure is a rigorous authorization process. That's how we prevent. You want to figure out how to ensure school success, ensure a rigorous bar to entry, and I just would urge us to maintain that high bar. And I think given this application in its current state, I think another year would put it in a much better position. Any further comments? Okay, I'll call for a roll call vote.
Can you state the motion again one time, just so we're absolutely clear what we're voting on?
I believe the motion is to not move Heritage Collegiate Leadership Academy Wake County forward to the second round.
Thank you.
All right, I will take a roll call vote. Jeanette Butterworth,
Aye.
Joel Ford, Bruce Friend,
Aye.
Rita Hare,
Aye.
Lynn Kroger,
Aye.
Hilda Parlay,
Aye.
Alex Quigley,
Aye.
Sherry Reeves,
Aye.
Cheryl Turner, Heather Van Cannon,
Aye.
and Stephen Walker.
No.
Okay, the motion passes 8-1 and will not move forward to ready to open status. All right.
All right.
It looks like we have a second interview. We are about 15 minutes behind, but it's Central Carolina Academy. So let me just get everything pulled up for you on screen. All right, Darian, you're good to go.
Okay, we have Central Carolina Academy coming to us now. Proposal in Lee County, as you see on the map here. There are 3 LEA middle schools, 2 high schools, and 2 charters that are within 5 to 6 miles of the proposed location. Here's a year 1 grade level span, 610, 282 students. You see the breakdown by grade level, adding a grade each year, 539 in year 2, 639 in year 3. Year 3, there will be 612. Capacity will be 664 in year 4. They do have food service, but not national lunch program. Transportation, no. Through parents. Special education, they'll provide. Weighted lottery, yes. Facility have not identified. They are looking for a 50 to 75 acre property that's mentioned in the charter application. There was no LEA impact statement, not a repeat applicant, even though they're a replication, and they had support from Chatham Charter.
All right, we can start the 10-minute applicant introduction.
Good morning, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to come and speak with you all this morning. We very much look forward to talking to you about this opportunity. My name is Dr. John Eldridge. I am the proposed head of school for this Central Carolina Academy and the current head of school of Chatham Charter School. We are finding ourselves here today after being approached by the state for the opportunity to look at replication. And basically the way that all kind of broke down for us was earlier this year, some folks from Dave Machado and a few folks from the Office of Charter School and DPI came to see us about the likelihood of us being willing to replicate what we're doing, especially with our high school program and the CCP a curriculum that's out there. And at that time, we also were engaged with a conversation with some people from Lee County who were interested in starting a charter school. And so the Career and College Promise was actually the curriculum that we were really kind of highlighting with our replication. And so that's kind of what got the ball rolling, and we decided to go and apply and get things started. I'm going to let Jeff Fry, who is the proposed board president, introduce himself, and then we have some other board members. We're all here in one room together, so please bear with us in the fact that we're going to be trying to mute so that we don't speak over each other. So just bear with us on that. We have one person that is remote and not with us. Kim Tyson is actually a board member that's not in the application. She is remote with us, but she's going to also introduce herself. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jeff.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, board, for hosting us today. We really appreciate the opportunity to share our thoughts and enthusiasm in discussing this potential new program within Lee County. So I'm a lifelong Lee County resident. From a career standpoint, I'm a global sales director within the pharmaceutical segment. And my interest in this program could really fall under 2 adjectives, one being committed. So as I mentioned, being a lifelong resident, I have 4 children who have gone through the public school system in Lee County. And I recognize that each child learns differently, requires different tactics, and has different goals. So being able to participate in a somewhat customized program that would be unique for individual kids' needs is very interesting to me. And I'm also excited as a member of the community and looking at it from a commercial and career standpoint, this is something that Lee County and the surrounding areas would tremendously benefit from. So as Dr. John mentioned, so I'm joined by some colleagues on the board that I'm going to hand over to them for their brief introduction.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? My name is Ashley Davenport, and unlike the rest of the board that you'll hear from, I am not a lifelong resident of Lee County. I moved here about 4 years ago, but I married a lifelong Lee County resident. And in those 4 years that I have been in Sanford, I have quickly fallen in love with the town, so much so that I opened up my own business in interior design and flipping homes in the area. And through that, I have gotten to know a lot of people moving in from other counties, other states, and they are always, the number one question when moving into Lee County is about education and choice, and especially for those that come from those bigger cities with options. So I am, like I said, I love Lee County, I love Sanford and the people of Sanford, so I am very passionate about really adding anything to the county that's going to help growth. And then on top of that, passionate about, I am a mother, and passionate about having the opportunities for children to really have that small, personalized feeling of middle school and high school, and really pushing them into being prepared for whatever path that they choose to go in life. So I'm really excited to be part of this board.
I am Anna Simpson, and again, I want to thank you guys for having us here today. As with most everybody on the board, I'm a lifelong resident. My family has been in Sanford and Lee County for a number of years. And after college, I graduated and was a commercial banker for 15 years, retired about a year and a half ago to stay at home and take care of my children. I have twin first graders. And my interest in this board is, like what the other members have said, they just providing additional opportunities for education. And I also do have some experience with special needs and providing opportunities for smaller class sizes for people who learn a little bit differently, but still have the cognitive ability to pursue further education or go out in the workforce, just to give that population a chance to fit in somewhere, and to have smaller class sizes and connect with the teachers and other students in the school. So that is really where my interest lies. And Kim, I will pass to you.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. My name is Kimberly Tyson. I am actually a resident of Lee County. I moved to Lee County in 1978 and graduated through Lee County, Lee Senior High School. I have 3 children, my husband, and I lived in Lee, like I said, we've lived in Lee County for several years now. And it's just been, I love Lee County. It is a wonderful county. Love Chatham County because I'm a native of Chatham County. My interest is in arts. I am a certified one-stroke instructor. I am also a planner with Chatham County. I do major subdivisions through Chatham County. And all in all, I'm looking forward. I'm the newest member on the board, so forgive me for my little nervousness that I have today. But all in all, looking forward to being able to communicate. To be able to welcome a new charter school to Lee County. I think it would be a wonderful addition for Lee County. Is that so? Again. If anybody have any questions, feel free to ask. Like I said, I'm the newest member of the board, but thank you.
Kim is also a parent of 2 students that graduated from Chatham Charter, so she's a great liaison and connection between the 2 staffs. I want to make sure we did not fail to mention that. Thank you, Ms. Grace.
Exactly. I'm sorry. You're exactly right. I am a parent. I actually had 3 daughters. Our 3 daughters went to Chatham Charter. 2 of them actually graduated from Chatham Charter class of 2018 and 2020. Our oldest daughter, Ashley, she would have graduated, but at the time, Chatham Charter didn't have high school there. So yes, we do live in Lee County, but my children went to Chatham County, went to Chatham Charter.
Can everyone hear me? Hey guys, my name's Carson Wilson. I'm a lifelong resident of Lee County. I went to Lee County High School, and after college, my wife and I decided to move back to Lee County. We decided to be a part of the community because we love the community and wanted to be a part of its positive growth. And my background, well, one of the reasons I was asked to be a part of the board was my background in commercial real estate and land acquisition, as well as my business community ties. But while I'm glad to bring those assets to the board, what was ultimately my why to be on the board was the opportunity to help CCA bring the chance to kids who may have fallen through the cracks at a traditional high school. Although traditional high school worked for some kids and worked for me, I know it doesn't work for everyone, as some of the board members have already mentioned. And what will keep me excited to be a part of the board is the opportunity to cultivate an environment and have hands-on experience or hands-on day-to-day with the board, is to give every child from every background an opportunity to succeed, especially the educationally disadvantaged children. That's the why for me. You know, whether that's military, they decide to go directly into the workforce, or a college path, that's going to be my why and why I'm excited to be a part of this board. Thank you.
And thank you. That concludes our opening comments. We appreciate the opportunity to do our introductions and kind of set the stage, and we're happy to entertain all your questions. Thank you.
All right. Hold on 1 minute. Okay, so board members, where are we on, what are some of the things that we'd like to dig into here?
Chair, quickly, if you are just going to be jumping around, I don't know if we're taking it in order of the application, but I have budget questions. I think that's my main area of questioning. The board they have great credentials and bring a lot of experience. I did wonder, will they have advisors as far as finance and legal and education? I know they have Dr. Eldridge. I'm just wondering about future board structure for well-roundedness. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for that. We actually have a liaison member that's here today, Julia Brent Milholland. Julia Brent Milholland was actually one of the founding parents and the initial board chair for Chatham Charter School, and is currently an employee here at Chatham Charter and is actually going to be serving as a liaison between the 2 boards. One of the things that's most interesting in this application that got me excited was the opportunity to have like a conglomerate of schools that are actually working together in a common vision. And so one of those pieces is to have someone that's actually not just on the leadership level, but also on the board level. So Julia Brent Milholland brings that experience from the background of opening a school. We've had 3 additions to Chatham Charter since that initial. She started out with just a K-8 program in 1 building, and then it got big enough to where there were a K-5 building and then a 6-8 building. And then, of course, they expanded, and we've started and had a 3rd building now, adding a gym and a high school. So she has that experience of not only the background of how the board works, they handle the business of the school and allows the administration, the faculty to run the school. But they also know that there's an important factor of making sure the board has reputation of, as you heard already, we have some banking experience. We have some leadership background. We have Acadia North Star that's our financial that does all our finances for Chatham Charter, and they plan on using that with Central Carolina Academy as well. So there'll be some financial support there and making sure that they understand how long-term budgeting looks, not just year-to-year budgeting, but also fiscal management down the road to be able to expand and do some of the things that they want to do on campus. But Julia Brent Milholland is actually here today to chime in and answer any questions you might have specifically about how the board works.
Okay, so I just want to get clear on roles here. So you're the author, primary lead author of the application. And just to be clear, you're the current leader of Chatham Charter?
Yes, sir.
But are you gonna lead both schools?
Yes, sir. So basically, the boards, we've already had a conversation with the board at Chatham Charter, is that we would actually be under contract with both schools. It's kind of like a central services concept, to where there would be someone that helps manage the curriculum and staff development. There would be someone that helps my job would be to evaluate and lead the leaderships of the 2 different buildings, basically in an effort to where if we're going to be a replication, my role would be to make sure that that replication is authentic. So that as we're using our programming here at Chatham Charter, it's also being replicated that way with curriculum, structure, staff development, budgeting, things of that nature would be done in unison as opposed to separately.
Okay, so, and is this board, but this is 2 separate boards that are gonna contract with the central services team, essentially, like a CMO?
Yes, well, I don't know if I guess it would be like a CMO, other than, it's kind of like when I became the head of this, and I'll let board members speak in just a minute, because I think I see a comment in there, because I think they need to.
We're gonna move into talking directly to.
Okay, that's great. So basically, the way I look at this is when I became the head of school at Chatham Charter, there were conflicting issues for me. Like when I came from Guilford County, I was a regional superintendent there. I had 15 staff members to help kind of divvy out what we need to get done. When you're a head of a school, as many people will be able to speak to, you're all of those things. And so it's really hard to be concentrated on just the academic growth or the budgeting. You're kind of spread out. So the goal for having a central services is that the central services team would take that off of the school, so that the school leadership and the school teams can concentrate on what's happening in the school and not worry about all that. So building level administration can actually lead the school forward, while the central services team kind of takes that burden off of them.
Sure. Yeah. I guess. And why don't who is the board chair? Is it Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Fry, what's your understanding of the organizational structure that will exist if the application is approved?
Did you hear me, Alex?
No, I didn't. Could you?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was just saying in regards to the school operations. Is that your question?
Yeah, well, essentially, so help me understand this. I think this might get to the question about the consortium. I want to make sure I ask about that, because a couple board members have asked about this. So we're going to spend a little time in governance and then circle back to ed plan and other things. But this is important because you're kind of essentially creating a new governance structure in a way. You are the chair of the Central Carolina board.
That's correct.
And what is your understanding of how your board is going to interface with this central services team?
Yeah.
hang on, let me remove my headset because I'm getting a lot of echo. Hang on.
Okay.
Okay, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. So we really have a great opportunity in that we have a separated board with a new school, but we do have the ability to leverage the success that's already in place with Chatham Charter. So my vision of, I'm getting a lot of echo. Hang on, let me make sure everyone's muted.
Is everybody muted? Make sure your computer's good.
Now we can't hear you. You might could hang up the phone and just talk to that computer in front of you.
Okay, how's that? Okay, now I can't hear you guys, so I'll have to switch back. So yeah, our understanding and the Dr. E and the other group have done a great job of educating those of us that are not in the education world on how the roles of our in being on the board works and what our responsibilities are. So we will obviously provide guidance into the business aspect or that area of management of the school. But then, as I mentioned earlier, having the ability to leverage a successful program that's already in place, and then having a school leader who is proven, has a great success record, and so on, we really are in a win-win situation. And wait a minute, Alex, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I don't know what's going on. He was talking right then. I can't hear anybody.
Let me try again. How's that? You hear me? Can you hear me?
No, I mean, is there a speaker on here? Let's say the speaker's off.
Sorry for the technical errors here.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I thought I heard.
Ashley, can we put up the org chart while we're talking about this?
Thank you.
Sure.
So, Mr. Fry.
Yeah, I'm back now, Alex. Sorry about that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so based on your board is going to, the head of school is going to report to your board?
That's correct.
And that head of school is also the head of school of Chatham Charter?
That is correct.
But then there's a principal of your school as well?
That is correct, yes.
And that principal reports to the head of school?
I would envision that, yes, sir.
Is that, I think what I'm reading here is, let me look at the,
I'm trying to pull it up. I have to go into Ed Lugeon's.
yeah, we really need to see an org chart. It says the head of school will report directly to the board of directors. The principal will report to the head of school. The central services team will report directly to the head of school and work with the principals to align. So therefore, CST will, 3 members of this team will include the head of school, the executive director of communication partnerships, and the executive director of curriculum instruction parental engagement. I guess one question I have is like, so you have 2 boards. So do you have like are you envisioning a contract with that organization? Is that its own organization or? And then we have this organizational structure conglomeration.
So again, this is a new concept, and so basically what we had talked about with the Chatham Charter Board is instead of them having just their own head of school, and I already have at this school, I have an elementary principal and I have a secondary principal. And so those two positions would remain, and then the two schools, Central Carolina Academy and Chatham Charter, would then half the cost of the three positions that you were just speaking of. So for continuity, and basically that comes not only for continuity purposes of how we replicate, but it also, as the administration is thinking about staff development, the two schools would be able to budget those things together. So it's like a combined effort to reduce the cost of staff development, and all those kind of things. So basically what we looked at if you have my salary, you have the other person's salary that's coming to the central services team, it's actually a savings for Chatham Charter School. And what they're doing right now, because they're going to keep the principal of both the elementary and the high school, and then there'll be a principal for the secondary programs at the Central Carolina. So there'd still be that there'd be the building level services, and then there'd be the outside central services team. So we've already kind of worked this out with Acadia North Star and the board. So it's kind of been. We had attorney, one of our board attorney kind of take a look at how we would structure those contracts. I think that's something that they will have to work together in the future to iron out exactly how that looks like. But it's one of those things where it being new, we're going to have to really iron all that out as we move forward. The concept is just one of those things where we're trying to partner together to accomplish something as opposed to being two separate entities trying to skin the same cat.
I get the idea behind it. I mean, I think it's not traditionally how this type of model is structured, or it's not. And I think I want to make sure the board understands, because I think you understand that I'm not really questioning. I think that, what happens if the two boards disagree? A lot of times you'll have one board that will manage both schools and as opposed to two boards, and then also it's a contracting, you're contracting, you're kind of contracting, but then you're also it's similar to a CMO where you're contracting the central service organization, but that organization, it doesn't actually exist. Like, there is no organization. Like, a lot of times you'll have a CMO that will then contract with the board. The CMO is its own 501c3. The board is its own 501c3. In this case, you're kind of contracting out the management of the school to an organization that is the conglomerate is probably the right word. I think it's just a little bit, I think
I understand what you're saying, and I think the most important thing is that the reason why we kept the individual board, and again, I think board members need to really speak to this, because we've had these conversations behind the scenes. It's not.
Why don't we let them answer?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's let them go ahead and answer the whole purpose behind it. But I think in the long run is the existence of two boards is because the individual communities are different communities that want to do their own thing. But the concept of the CCP and the educational programming is why we're essential. So I'll turn it over to the board member that wants to speak to it.
A follow-up to that is, like, does a board, and this is for a board member, does the board see this as a startup organization meant to kind of lay the groundwork for the school to launch, and then you'll eventually hire your own? Or do you envision this kind of conglomerate being a long-term managerial structure, and then kind of adding other schools into it? Or what is the long-term vision of this and your understanding?
Well, I'll speak to that. First of all, I think having Chatham Charter and their board is a huge strength. I think as we start this replication, we can look to them for guidance. But we're still independent school. We make our own decisions. And if we do see that disagreement occurs, then maybe we choose to make our own independent decisions. If it works, that's perfect. That's what we envision. I think us as board members and Chatham Charter, we're all aware of what the plan is. And hopefully we all remember that it's about the kids, so that we can come to terms that ultimately helps the children in making the most successful schools that we can.
Okay. I've been kind of dominating this governance discussion, so I want to make sure I open it. I haven't
I had some questions.
issues about budget, so.
Alex, I have a few questions to follow on with your, may I?
Yeah, go for it.
So when we're looking, first of all, I don't understand why the Chatham board, if we want a replication, why the Chatham board didn't replicate with just adding, members from the new county. But, and this, I understand a partnership and wanting to use the model that Chatham has. But from what I understand about the demographics, the two areas are very different. The application says that Central Carolina will mirror the demographics of Lee County, which is 37.5% Hispanic, 35.7% white, and 19.4% black. If you look at the demographics of Chatham Charter School, they are 79% white and 9.5% black. Chatham also started in a very different way than Central Carolina. Chatham was initially an elementary school, and then they expanded to middle, and then some years later expanded to the high school program that they have. Chatham itself has been around since 1997. However, Central Carolina is proposing to start 6 through 10, and I just would like some board member to speak to me about the demographics and the grade span in that first year, being that you're picking up all of middle school and the first 2 years of high school, and high school with some pretty aggressive numbers when students are already in place in a high school. So I would like Mr. Fry or someone to speak to that.
Hi, this is Ashley, and I can speak to that. There's a lot in there, so I'm going to try to unpack and answer your questions. Lee County and Chatham County, we are very aware of there are some demographics that are different. And Chatham Charter wants to improve in their demographics using Lee County's success. And we have talked a lot about, within, learning from Chatham Charter, learning from Lee County and our success. And really, we've talked about the marketing and getting out and, getting some of those educationally disadvantaged children. We've talked about transportation, and we've talked about the child nutrition and how we would handle the different demographics. And why grades 6 through 12 is because when we did go out and we started surveying some people, and in the conversation when this was coming about, a lot of people are happy with elementary schools in Lee County, and we do currently have a choice there. It's a year-round school that does have a lottery, and then we do have a public school that has a STEAM program, and that is a lottery as well. So we have choices there, and people are happy, where we've heard, people expressing more concern and wanting some options and choices for middle school and high school age. And while that, it seems like a lot, there are long wait lists for both of those middle school options.
Yeah, and this is Jeff. Just to add to Ashley's comment, so as she mentioned, there's currently a school of choice model within the elementary system, which is called Tramway. I don't know if that was on your map. But it, as well as like what Ashley mentioned, the other schools that are the non-traditional public schools in Lee County, those are all waitlisted. And Lee County continues to grow. When we look at the influx of people from adjacent counties, whether it's for employment or just lifestyle, whatever the case, the demands on the existing high schools is only going to increase. And at some point, they're going to be overburdened. And then when you combine that with looking at the wait list on the other options, it seems to really indicate the need. Thank you.
Can I also add a couple of comments to that as well? As a parent who have children who's went to Lee County School, my children went to Tramway Elementary, as well as my oldest child went to Wesley Middle School, and my children also went to Chatham Charter School. So as a parent, I've actually experienced both school systems. And absolutely, whenever my oldest daughter was going to Chatham was going to Wesley Middle School at the time, it was overcapacitated. It was, I think, equipped for roughly 650 students at the time whenever she was attending. And this was like 2006, 2005. This is before the third middle school came in. Again, 1,100 students that was there, and they were only, speaking with teachers that was there, they were actually staffed for 650 students. Tramway year-round school was an amazing school. Absolutely loved it. Again, both my two oldest ones went to Tramway Middle School. It is a school of choice. Whenever my husband's job was switching him to Siler City, we looked for a school that was of equal value as Tramway, and Chatham Charter School was the school in my research, because I believe in education, good education for my children. And so that was the closest thing. So I understand from a parent point of view why sixth grade and up. If I had the choice at the time, whenever my child was in the sixth grade, I would have sent her to a charter school versus going to that traditional school. Just because of the small class sitting. The small class sittings is wonderful for an individual child.
Okay, we have some questions on the budget, so I want to get to that. Lynn had a question.
Chair Quigley, this is Heather Van Cannon. Can I jump in? I have a question on the budget. So I was looking at the facilities plan, and I believe that the plan is to build a new facility and acquire somewhere around 50 acres to 70 acres of land. And that was estimated to be at a cost of $8.4 million. However, when I look at the facility lease and mortgage, the first year, which I would assume, I think that's when the new building was to be opened, it's $150,000. And just my quick math, that would not cover the debt service on a 30-year loan, or probably even a 40-year loan if you're able to find such a jump. And so the debt service is going to be roughly around $420,000 that first year. And then I think I read that there's a plan to add some auxiliary type buildings and then another building for the middle school. So within 3 years, you would be paying on debt service of $16.4 million. Which certainly is going to put you closer at like $1 million of paying for facilities, or somewhere, roughly $750,000 to $1 million. So can someone speak to the different, or maybe there's monies that I'm not aware of. So can someone speak to that, please?
Yes, I'll speak to that, and that's a good point. This is Carson here. Yeah, you're right. We have in the application a facility that will cost around $8.4 million, but that's an end goal for the entire facility. To start, we're going to probably start around. What we'll look is somewhere we can go with the ability to expand. And we'll start small with maybe one building. And even we're going to look into options of modular units. Of course, our end goal would be to year one to have a facility that's privately funded, up and ready to go. But we're exploring different options. But we're going to start small, and that $8.4 million budget is for the full facility when we're operating 6 through 12. And early on, year one, where we're looking to get some of this funding and to finance our original plans or early plans is through the NC Access Grant. I believe that will help us get us to where we need to be, because of course there's a lot of costs that go into building a school, whether it's surveys, site plans. Those are costly things, but most likely we'll have to operate out of private funding, and hopefully if we're granted the NC Access Grant, that will help us early on.
Okay, we're at about time at 25 minutes for board questions. I'm going to pose this to the Charter School Advisory Board, and if the Chatham Board is amicable, I think the ed plan which we haven't talked about, is strong, and they're replicating a strong charter school. I do think we have a few more things we need to clarify that is going to require more than the time that we have. But I think the school has strong potential, and I'm always, I think, as I've said many times, replicating high-performing charter schools in the state that are doing innovative things is the way that we get more high-performing charter schools. So, I'm in favor of moving them to the second round. I don't know what the pleasure of the board is right now, but if the Chatham Board, if we're up for that, then the Chatham Board, probably not necessary to make a closing statement now. If CSAB is ready to move forward to the second round, and then you'll have more opportunity to talk in the next interview. What is the board's pleasure, or how do people react to that as an idea?
Mr. Chair, I really, I like this school, and I think there's just a few things that needs a kind of a bow put on the top. The present's almost wrapped up, and I do think that a second interview probably won't even take the whole time of the second interview.
Yeah.
Would work great. So I move that we have Central Carolina Academy back for a second interview.
This is Jeanette Butterworth. I'll second that.
Okay, good. Properly moved and second. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chair, this is Mr. Friend. I'm going to support the motion. One maybe second interview they could come prepared for is when I was looking at the part of the application where, again, it's about parental interest in the school. I saw where they submitted the survey form that they used, but I didn't actually see any actual data feedback that shows the strong interest. So maybe they can come prepared and talk about that.
Yeah, and I expect I'll probably have some additional questions just about the org structure and getting clear on how that works. I mean, I think Mr. Eldridge understands it. I want to make sure the board fully understands it. Yeah, it might be good to have a representative from the Chatham Charter Board join as well, one or two, maybe the board chair and someone else. I'd like them to join the interview because this impacts them as well. Because essentially
That'd be excellent.
We're taking away, an outstanding leader. You're kind of splitting his time now between two schools, and you've obviously been instrumental in the success at Chatham Charter over the last few, tremendous success they've had, Dr. Eldridge. So, we're going to want to question that board. I think I have some questions about the lunch program as well. So you'll need to be prepared for that. Okay. And just facilities related to budget. So a couple board members have put some additional questions, but again, solid application, replication of a high performing school, which is what we like to see. I think we just need some more time. So any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, Rita Hare speaking.
Yes.
I do encourage them to clean up the budget, to go through the numbers. They show a surplus in year 5 of $730,418 that should have been applied to personnel benefits, which was left out. They have an entry for gas of $150,000 that should have been $15,000. And when they add 257 students, one year 100, the following year, and 25 the following year, there are about 10 areas of expenses that never change. And I just think we need to see that really wrapped up with the same bow.
Yeah, I think it's some of those out years in the budgets need to be corrected. So given that, the other parts of the application are really strong, I think we're going to have you take a look at those and have, as stressed with other schools, board members have to be able to speak and know the budget inside out, speak apparently about it. Not something that you'll do long-term, but every month your head of schools or whoever it is reporting to you on the budget. You have to be able to understand the budget as a board member. So we'll be asking board members those questions. Okay, further discussion. I'll call for a roll call vote. Hearing none.
Okay, this is a motion to move Central Carolina to a second interview. Jeanette Butterworth?
Aye.
Bruce Friend?
Aye.
Rita Hare?
Aye.
Lynn Kroger?
Aye.
Hilda Parlay?
Aye.
Alex Quigley?
Aye.
Sherry Reeves?
Aye.
Cheryl Turner? She's here. Heather Van Cannon?
Aye.
Stephen Walker?
Aye.
Okay, great. The motion passes unanimously, and Central Carolina, we will be in touch from our office to give you instructions on your next interview.
Okay, thank you very much on behalf of our school. We look forward to talking to you guys going forward.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, folks, it's 12:18. Time for lunch break. You can leave the meeting or stay in, just mute yourself and hide your camera. Let's have everyone be back at 12:10 or 1:10 so that we can make sure we're starting right on time with Faith Academy.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Lawrence, you can turn off live streaming if you hear me.